Chapter 692. Today, midnight, 12/17/20. In the snowfield of the upper dimension, in the canyon residence, torches lit up the huge stone room. The bamboo bear's plump body was lying on the thick, white ghost skin on the mattress that the husband and wife were sleeping on. As it turned out, your grandpa will always be your grandpa. No matter where it was, a creature like the bamboo bear would receive the best treatment. The bamboo bear was obviously not interested in the new environment. It ignored the group and went to sleep on the white ghoul mattress. Yuan squatted beside the bamboo bear curiously, sizing up the creature that was especially novel to them. Yuan stretched out her little hand from time to time, pinching its furry ears and stroking its big head. The bamboo bear had also lived in the shadow ruins for a long time and grew rapidly. It was almost 7 meters tall and huge, almost reaching the size of an adult bamboo bear. However, its obedient appearance did not have the dignity that a platinum divine beast should have. It was like a big doll, round and furry. The more Yuan looked at it, the more she liked it. In the end, the little girl could not help but ride on it. The bamboo bear still did not react to Yuan's actions and slept soundly. Yuan looked happy. She looked up at her mother and spoke softly as if she was afraid of disturbing the bamboo bear's sleep. "Mom, it's so soft and furry." Songlan had been guarding Yuan, afraid that an accident would happen. Of course, she knew the original form of this dimensional creature, and it was easy for her to make the connection. However, it was Songlan's first time seeing a dimensional creature. She had entered the snowfield as early as 2011, and the bamboo forest dimensional space had only appeared on Earth at the end of 2015. Songlan's eyes were full of love. She squatted down and gently rubbed Yuan's head. "Make friends with it. Don't make it angry. Treat it well." Yuan nodded and slowly lay down on the bamboo bear's body. Her two little arms wrapped around the bamboo bear's huge body as much as possible. Her little face was buried in the bamboo bear's back, rubbing left and right while laughing happily. Hee. For some reason, Songlan, who should have been happy, could not bear to see such a scene. She never knew whether Yuan's birth was good or bad. To be exact, she had always thought that her and Hu Wei's actions were extremely irresponsible to the next generation and to Yuan. Indeed, the couple's days in the snowfield were hard, especially in the third year. Their mental state was extremely poor. The couple that Jiang Xiao saw was a loving and responsible couple who were extremely strong. In the third year after they entered the snowfield, the couple traveled for a long time and exhausted all their strength, but all they saw was still a vast expanse of white snowfield. "I think the cotton shoes are the most important. By the way, put the medicine away. I know you guys are in good health. You've survived so much, but it's better to be safe." Before Jiang Xiao could finish, Hu Wei interrupted him. Hu Wei leaned forward and held Jiang Xiao's hand. "Thank you, Jiang Xiao." The couple's actions were almost the same. However, Songlan pressed on his arm while Hu Wei pressed on his hand. Jiang Xiao felt a little uncomfortable. He retracted his hand and leaned back slightly. In a slightly unnatural state, Jiang Xiao said, "Don't ask about the future when you do good deeds." Songlan sat up straight and turned his head to look at Yuan, who was lying on the big plush toy and had gradually fallen asleep. He even saw that there was saliva dripping from Yuan's round mouth. She looked extremely cute. Songlan murmured softly, "Don't ask about the future." The two sentences were connected and conveyed a single meaning. But when he mentioned it alone, the meaning of the words had completely changed. Jiang Xiao also turned to look at Yuan. Just like the bamboo bear, the two cute creatures were adorable. Such a scene would indeed make one smile from the bottom of their hearts. Jiang Xiao stood up and walked towards an unopened package. He picked it up and returned to the table. "You can ask about the future, too." Jiang Xiao then opened the package and took out a small bag. The sound of glass beads colliding with each other could be heard. Shadow Crow star beads, 100 pieces. Jiang Xiao placed it in front of the couple and waved at Zhang Songfu, gesturing for him to sit down. Zhang Songfu pressed his hand on Jiang Xiao's shoulder and sat down with a smile. Waterman Jiang or Beauty Jiang? Jiang Shao smiled and thought to himself, it seems that the couple did not tell Zhang Song for their names. Hu Wei was too agitated just now, and thus said Jiang Zhao's name. Jiang Shao pointed at the small bag on the table and said, Number 1 star technique, conjuring crow, summon a flock of crows. Number 2 star technique, exploding crow, inject star power into the crows and cause them to explode. Most importantly, number 3 star technique, shadow crow, allows people to turn into crows. You guys can fly and explore the map with me in the future. Song Lan's reaction was the greatest. She picked up the small bag with trembling hands and opened it to see a pile of star beads. When the 3 of them came here, they were all in the galaxy stage. Now, they were all in the starfall stage with 8 empty star slots. Jiang Shao said, This type of star technique is suitable for a warrior star map. All 3 of you are warriors. Okay. Zhang Songfu nodded repeatedly. This type of star bead is too suitable for us. It's also suitable for our current situation. This is a specialty of Kong kind. You. Jiang Shao remained silent for a while before saying, I killed my way out when I was on a mission overseas. Zhang Songfu was stunned. He was a guardian of the night, and he knew the duties of a guardian of the night. Mission overseas? Zhang Songfu pressed his hand on Jiang Zhao's shoulder and suddenly asked, Does the light-chasing team you belong to have a designation? There are also star beads that are not suitable for warriors, but I still brought them. Jiang Shao ignored Zhang Songfu and took out another brocade pouch from his bag. Although the brocade pouch was large, it obviously could not contain 100 star beads. With his previous experience, Jiang Shao gave a more complete introduction this time. The Pyrotechnician Puppet Star Bead comes from the Fire Source Mountain range of the capital. This is a pure rule star bead that can summon the Pyrotechnician and Yin Xiaomu. According to the biological characteristics of the Pyrotechnician, it's very suitable as a babysitter. As for Yin Xiaomu, feeling a little awkward, Jiang Shao said, Yin Xiaomu is suitable as a playmate. The main purpose of me bringing this star bead here is that they can be used as torches to keep warm. As summoned creatures, they can also help you explore unknown dangers and protect your homes. Hu Wei said, Let me do it. Master Fu's star map is for monks, while Lanlan's star map is for weapons. My star map is more suitable for the dwarves. Your star map is not suitable at all. Are you going to use the rope as a beast-taming rope? It's not the same thing at all, this. Jiang Shao took out a large brocade pouch and handed it to Song Lan. Lily of the Bell Star Bead. Level 1 Star Technique. Lily of the Bell Star Technique. Used for micromanipulation. Level 2. Lily of the Bell Star Technique. Used to drag the target into an illusion. Level 3. Lily of the Bell Star Technique. Used to create weapons that can explode and drag the enemy into the illusion that you created. Jiang Shao stared straight at Song Lan and said softly, You can bring Yuan anywhere you want to go. Bring him to see the colorful world. Bring him to Jiang Shao. Jiang Shao. Song Lan could no longer hold it in. The tears that she had been holding back finally gushed out. She covered her eyes with one hand and hung her head low while sobbing. She blamed herself the most for making Yuan face the snow for the rest of her life. But Jiang Shao gave her a chance to make up for it. Even if it was a dream and an environment, Jiang Shao had already done his best in such an environment. Seeing this, Zhang Songfu hurriedly made a joke in order to avoid awkwardness. Peninsula Star Bead? It's from the northeast and the northwest. You're even taking their specialties. Brother, you're always out on missions? From the northeast to the northwest. You're pretty wild, aren't you? Jiang Shao did not know how to react either. After hearing Zhang Songfu's words, he turned around and said, You whoosh. Jiang Zhao's words came to an abrupt halt. Almost at the same time, Zhang Songfu, Hu Wei, and Jiang Shao stood up and looked at the door. Song Lan was stunned for a moment and quickly turned around to look as well. Seems like you found the motivation to survive. An old voice could be heard from the dim tunnel. The tunnel was not as brightly lit as the stone chamber. Under the illumination of the torch at the door, an old face was revealed, flickering between light and dark. Jiang Shao, not a bad name. The old man, who was wearing a white ghoul coat, strode in. He was a medium build and had a round face and round eyes. He was supposed to look kind, but because of the deep wrinkles on his face, he seemed unusually stern. When Zhang Songfu saw the old man, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Wasn't this the old man that he had met once before? Jiang Shao looked at the old man quietly and said, "Heian, not bad too." The old man was slightly startled. He then shook his head and laughed. Hu Wei looked wary and asked, "Who is it?" Jiang Shao looked at the old man quietly and said, "Wasteland Reclaimer Heian, Wasteland Reclaimer number 042001, male, Manchurian, 177 centimeters, age 46 when he went missing, August 1999. Hu Wei was shocked and looked at the unfamiliar old man in disbelief. Wasteland Reclaimer? Time of disappearance. 1999? Jiang Shao said softly. 042 is his team's number and 001 is his personal number. This alternate dimension in the snowfield was developed by the Wasteland Reclaimers 037 and 042. Only then did everyone realize that the person standing before them was not only a great senior, but also the person who developed the snowfield. I'm begging for monthly votes for the last 2 days. I believe everyone can see that Yu Zhen has worked very hard. I won't go back on my word. I'll leave the rest of you guys. Can the poisonous milk powder help the little poisonous milk powder make it to the final circle? Bookmark for easier reading. By the time he landed heavily on the edge of the cliff, the two had already disappeared. However, there were some footprints on the ground. Hu Wei. His wife's voice echoed from the bottom of the valley. It was easy to hear her voice in the quiet valley. Hu Wei hesitated for a moment before returning resentfully. In the snow forest, Jiang Shao flew around the giant tree and chased after the old man. He couldn't help but shout ho-ho. Jiang Shao had never chased after an old man before, nor had he ever chased after an old man so quickly. Sir System, please retract your supernatural powers. Can't you respect the laws of nature? Old people can't use their muscles and bones. At your age, it's time to wear slippers and walk the bird. Why are you still training to run 100 meters? A man and a crow flew in the snow forest and finally arrived in front of the beacon tower. He finally stopped and turned to look at Jiang Shao. Jiang Shao also heaved a sigh of relief. He finally stopped. Jiang Shao transformed into a human and cupped his fist slightly. He made an ancient gesture and said, "Senior, are you going to teach me your techniques and take me in as your last disciple? Then you'll transfer all your inner strength to me?" Ian was still smiling, but his round face and round eyes froze. He was stunned. Jiang Shao smiled, and the curve of his round mass became even more curved. Ian thought for a moment, then pointed to the ground and said, "Kowtow to me then." Jiang Shao was speechless. "Naughty, you're still the naughty one." Ian said, "I don't have any inner strength, but my fists and legs are pretty good. Do you want to learn?" Jiang Shao shook his head and said, "I just want to find the exit of the snowfield." Ever since he met this senior, Jiang Shao had never figured out his tricks. He gave everyone encouragement and praise, ignoring Hu Wei and his wife. He only glanced at Zhu Xiong and Yuan Yuan, but it was only a glance. From the beginning to the end, he didn't express his opinion. Moreover, this old man didn't seem to be too surprised that Jiang Shao brought so many things. He also shook his head silently and said in an old voice, "Exit, there is and there isn't." Jiang Zhao's heart tightened. This old man had lived here for 19 years, so he must know many secrets of the upper layer of the snowfield. No matter what the other party's intentions were, he had to ask what he was concerned about first. Jiang Shao hurriedly asked, "Is there an exit? Or was there no exit?" "I think there is," he said calmly. "At least there is a space-time tunnel that connects the upper and lower layers." I said there isn't because until now, I haven't found where the space-time tunnel is. Every time Jiang Shao came, the landing point was indeed different. Would it be a moving tunnel? Or was it a hidden tunnel? Jiang Shao said, "But the holy ground of the lower dimensions." He nodded and said, "The holy ground and the space-time tunnel are two different things. Maybe there's also a space-time tunnel hidden in the holy ground." Jiang Shao asked, two different things? Isn't the holy ground the largest space-time tunnel? He shook his head and said, in the words of Earth, the holy ground is more like a projection machine that projects the creatures here to the lower dimensions. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. Jiang Shao hurriedly said, the white ghouls clearly jumped out of the gate, and they have flesh and blood. They're all real physical bodies, and they can even mate and give birth to life. He looked at Jiang Shao with a smirk and said, so, you think that during the process of passing through the space-time tunnel, some factors have weakened their strength and reduced them to the brass grade? Jiang Shao was speechless. He waved his hand and said, no hurry, this point can be proven. You can fly now. Once I give you the direction and path, you will see the projection device hanging high in the sky. Or maybe it's not a projection device, but with my human knowledge and experience, I can only compare it to a projection device. Jiang Shao frowned slightly and asked, high in the sky? Ian looked at the sky and said softly, a place that is so high that you can't imagine it. Jiang Shao pursed his lips and didn't comment. Is the holy ground really not a space-time tunnel? Is it really not a space gate? It's just a space-time tunnel hidden in it, just like the space-time tunnels in the other corners of the lower dimensions that connect to the upper and lower dimensions. The white ghouls that emerged from the holy ground didn't fall from the upper dimensions to the lower dimensions, but projections. So, when the holy ground is destroyed and the projections are gone, everything is gone? Would the lower levels of the dimensional space collapse? Or is the space-time tunnel hidden in the holy ground the main tunnel? Although the human speculations were wrong, the effect was the same. Once the main tunnel was destroyed, the lower dimensions would lose contact with the upper dimensions, which would cause the space to collapse. Ian suddenly opened his mouth and said, although there's no way back, there's a way forward. Just like the lower dimensions, the door to the upper dimensions is fixed. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. There is an upper dimension? There is another world? What does that mean? Ian looked around, casually picked up a tree branch, and drew an equilateral triangle in the snow. At the top corner of the triangle, he drew a circle and said, Earth. Ian gestured to the right side of the triangle and said, the space gate. Jiang Shao looked at it silently, without saying a word. Ian drew another circle at the bottom right corner of the triangle and said, the lower dimensions of the dimensional space. The tree branch pointed at the bottom line of the triangle, and Ian gestured, the space-time tunnel, or the so-called holy ground. Ian drew another circle at the bottom left corner of the triangle and said, the upper dimensions of the dimensional space. Jiang Zhao's heart slowly rose. On the left side of the triangle, Ian gestured, the space-time tunnel, or the holy ground. However, this line was already connected to Earth. Ian drew another circle at the top corner that represented Earth and said, the alternate dimensions. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded, but the mask did a good job of concealing his expression. He asked, you mean, Earth and the alternate dimension world overlap? Ian nodded and said, in a certain sense. Jiang Shao asked, you in what sense? Ian said softly, it's a primitive Earth, one that's full of fantasy and colors. Jiang Shao asked in puzzlement, you've been there? Ian nodded and sighed, seemingly filled with endless emotions. It's a man-eating world. All the creatures that you can see on Earth and in the alternate dimensions are there. The difference is that there's no longer a clear boundary between the alternate dimensions. They live on the same continent, survive, and kill at all times. Jiang Zhao's atoms apple squirmed, and he thought, Earth on a certain dimensional level? A planet that's really full of star power and star beasts? Yin said, I call it the alien sphere, which can be understood as an alternate Earth or alternate dimensional planet. What do you think of this name? Alien sphere? Jiang Shao wasn't interested in the name. Instead, he asked, if it's as you said, and the difficulty of returning to the upper dimensions is the same as returning to the lower dimensions from the upper dimensions, how did you come back if you've been there? Yun sneered, shook his head, and said, how can I possibly return? Jiang Shao was slightly stunned. Yun's expression gradually became solemn. He looked straight at Jiang Shao and said, not long after you left, I found the burned snow forest, the beacon tower, and the canyon. I've been observing those soldiers for a long time. From their words, I've heard a lot about you. I think I can be honest with you about some things." Jiang Shao remained silent and listened quietly. Tian reached out and pressed his hand on Jiang Zhao's shoulder. He said, "I'm the bait. What about you?" Jiang Shao was flabbergasted. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 694. Jiang Shao asked, "You're bait?" Tian grabbed Jiang Zhao's shoulder tightly and said, "Those soldiers think that you're a summoned creature, and I think so too. The fact that you brought these things from Earth also confirmed our thoughts." Tian sighed softly and said, "Times have changed, and there have been many changes in my hometown. There have been many strange star techniques. You're a summoned creature too, right?" Jiang Shao said. Tian said, "I need a direct answer from you, soldier." Jiang Shao nodded and said, "Yes, I'm a bait too." Tian was taken aback. "What the F***CK?" Tian blurted out in a northeastern accent. Jiang Shao was a little puzzled by Tian's reaction. "I'm a bait too. What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" Tian stared at Jiang Shao in shock and asked, "How can you absorb star techniques?" Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. "What do you mean? You can't absorb star techniques?" Jiang Shao asked. "What's the quality of your bait?" Tian answered, "Platinum. That's the highest quality. Even the genuine white ghoul witches in the alien sphere are of platinum quality." Jiang Shao muttered, "Oh dear, I was too careless. I thought that I'd encountered an expert who knows everything. But senior, he doesn't. I'm doomed." Jiang Shao thought, this old man can fly, run, hide, and eavesdrop in places where no one can find him. He must have a high-level perception type star technique, right? Yet, he doesn't even have a single star technique. So, this senior, he is a platinum quality bait? Gold quality baits began to have physical bodies, while platinum quality baits could communicate telepathically. However, diamond quality baits would only be able to display a star map on the basis of communicating telepathically. Jiang Shao hurriedly changed the topic and asked, "How did you send the bait down?" Ian was interrupted and replied, "I didn't send it down. I was very lucky to find an advanced platinum white ghoul witch here. It was leading an army of thousands. I almost lost my life in that platinum blessing." Ian was interrupted by Hiyun and replied, "I didn't. After I killed that platinum quality white ghoul witch, I exchanged it for a platinum quality bait and discovered the secret behind it. After that," Hiyun hesitated and said, "I'll leave the bait here to protect the people. I'll go to the world above and head to the alien ball." Jiang Shao asked, "Protect the people? Are they the people who entered this place by mistake?" Hiyun nodded and confirmed Jiang Zhao's conjecture. He then changed the topic and said, "Your bait is of higher quality? Diamond quality?" Jiang Shao. Hiyun rubbed the back of his head. He had lived his whole life, but today he was shocked by a little brat. Jiang Shao expressed that they were in the same boat. "You scare me just now, too." Hiyun wanted to say something, but hesitated. Clearly, he knew he should not ask, but he was too shocked. He could not help but say, "Your diamond-grade bait," Jiang Shao answered. "It was a coincidence." Hiyun. "Coincidence? What a coincidence! There's nothing wrong with that." Actually, there was nothing to be surprised about. Since Jiang Shao could communicate telepathically, it meant that his bait must be of platinum quality and above. What kind of standard does he have to be able to get platinum quality bait on Earth in the lower dimension? This is... it's something that can't be explained at all. I can only say that it was a coincidence. Jiang Shao was still a little unwilling to give up. He asked, "You've been here for 19 years. Have you really not found the exit?" "As far as I know, some seniors have returned from the upper dimension," Hiyun said with a look of relief. "As I said, there must be a connecting passage, but it's not fixed. You've been here at least 2 or 3 times. Have you found the secret of the space-time tunnel?" Jiang Shao shook his head and said helplessly, "Every time I come up from the lower dimension, the teleportation location is different. Maybe the space-time tunnel is changing all the time." Hiyun suddenly said, "Why don't you look for those lucky veterans? Ask them how they got back." Jiang Shao felt even more helpless as he said, My superior has already asked around. Countless soldiers and society experiencers have been trapped in the upper dimensions of various spaces in China, and only a few of them have returned. However, these few people don't even know how they returned. It's said that everything happened in an instant. They probably hit the jackpot and accidentally entered the moving space-time tunnel. That's why they were sent back. I came to find you because I wanted to ask if there were any other reliable methods. Is there a fixed way home? Yin was silent for a while before saying, "If there is, I would have gone back a long time ago." Jiang Shao was speechless. Neither of them spoke again. All of a sudden, there was silence under the beacon tower. After a while, Jiang Shao said, "Take me to see the projector." Yin nodded and said, "Sure, but it's a long way away. You have to say goodbye to those people." Jiang Shao thought about it and asked, "How long will it take us to get back at our current speed?" Ian did not give an accurate answer and only said roughly, "About 10 days. Jiang Shao pondered for a while and said, "All right then, let's go back. We'll stay in the canyon for 2 days and rest before we set off again. I've been flying for too long." Ian shook his head. "When you're ready, come and find me here. I won't be going." Jiang Shao asked, "Why? Don't you want to see them?" Thinking about the previous scene, Jiang Shao asked again, "Do you have anything against Hu Wei and Songlan?" Sigh. Ian let out a long sigh and did not answer. Instead, he said, "You should go back." Jiang Zhao's next words hit the nail on the head. "Are you unhappy with them because they gave birth here?" Ian raised his eyebrows and looked at Jiang Zhao's circle mask. "That's all. If you still want me to lead the way for you." Jiang Shao opened his mouth but did not say anything in the end. Everyone had their own perspective and opinions. Everyone was different, and that was why the world was beautiful. It was extremely difficult for Jiang Shao to instill his thoughts into someone else's mind. That was why teachers were respected and politicians were despised. Ian suddenly asked, "Do you want to come to the alternate world to broaden your horizons?" Jiang Shao put aside the previous topic and looked at Hiyun with a smile. "Senior, is this the reason why you're looking for me alone?" He did not hide it and simply nodded. "You're just a summon creature. If you die, so be it. It doesn't matter." Jiang Shao thought about it and said, "Are you not bringing them to the alternate world because it's too dangerous there?" "Yes." He nodded gently. "The galaxy stage is a little too inexperienced." "Damn it. The galaxy stage is a little too inexperienced?" This old man, although he's a platinum quality decoy, he's probably above the galaxy stage. Is that why he's so good at concealing himself and having such a strong physique without any star techniques? Jiang Shao was a little dumbfounded. The Capital Star Warriors University was considered top-notch, right? Only a small group of Year 3 and Year 4 students were at the peak of the galaxy stage. Jiang Shao was in the World Cup, so of course, he would meet people who were at the peak of the galaxy stage. That might give others the illusion that the students of the Capital Star Warriors University were all at the peak of the galaxy stage. Jiang Shao wasn't even at the peak of the galaxy stage, yet this old man said that the galaxy stage was too inexperienced? Damn it. Ian looked at Jiang Zhao's circle mask with a faint smile and stared at the only part of his eyes that was exposed. He said, "If they have the opportunity to increase their strength, I can bring them into the alternate world to play." The corners of Jiang Zhao's lips twitched awkwardly, and he thought, "What a coincidence. What nice word." Ian continued, "I'll bring you to see the projector and then to see the door to the alternate world. You'll never be able to find it if you fly in the sky. It's buried deep underground." "Underground? Damn it, it's actually underground," Jiang Shao asked cautiously. What are the benefits of breaking through to the galaxy stage?" "Benefits?" Ian thought about it for a while and understood what Jiang Shao meant. He smiled and said, "Do you still remember the feeling of breaking through to the galaxy stage from a nebulous stage?" "Of course." Jiang Shao nodded repeatedly. "That's not just a benefit, it's also a threshold." He nodded and said, "It's the same for a galaxy stage." Jiang Shao blinked. "Physical fitness greatly improved? A qualitative leap?" He nodded, but he was puzzled. The population base of Earth is huge. There will always be geniuses. Have there never been any star warriors in the galaxy stage? Jiang Shao shook his head decisively and said, I've never even heard of it, let alone seen it. Okay, Heian said with a look of pity. Indeed, no matter how talented you are, it's too difficult to cultivate in the star power environment. Jiang Shao pursed his lips and hesitated for a while before changing the topic. I'm just a rookie in the early galaxy stage. Are you sure you want to bring me up? To Jiang Zhao's surprise, Heian said, just for fun. Jiang Shao was speechless. Heian said, I just said that you're a summoned creature. If you die, so be it. I really want to bring you along and let you see the outside world. Jiang Shao thought to himself, is this old man really lonely, or does he think of me as his grandson? Is he looking for some spiritual sustenance? Heian saw the look in Jiang Zhao's eyes and said with a smile, through the communication between the soldiers, I found out everything you've done. You're an outstanding soldier with a warm heart. Jiang Shao opened his mouth, but didn't say anything. Heian sighed and said, I'm old. Even if I'm not old, I can't go back. Heian stretched his hand out again and pressed it on Jiang Zhao's shoulder. I'm destined to be here. While I still have some abilities and can protect you, let me be your guide and bring you to the alien planet to take a look. The future is ultimately yours. Who knows? One day, you might really be able to understand the mysteries of this world and bring everyone home. Heian's palm slid down and landed on Jiang Zhao's vigil armband. He said, so be it. We're all family, soldiers, and Chinese. Let me do what I can for you. Heian's calm words made Jiang Shao feel extremely emotional. Without a doubt, Jiang Zhao's actions were a stepping stone and a proof of loyalty. However, the test was mutual. This respectable old man actually wanted to leave something for China at the end of his life. Jiang Shao accepted the mission. Jiang Shao calmed himself down and said softly, is there anything you need me to bring? If you want, I can help you get some things. Heian shook his head and said, let's have some fun first. We'll talk about it after you die. Old man, you're really good at chatting. You ruined the atmosphere with just one sentence. You have the demeanor I had back then. Of course, Jiang Shao couldn't say what he was thinking. He said, thank you very much, then. Heian chuckled and said, oh, you've changed, you? Jiang Shao chuckled too. It was rare for this old man to maintain such a personality in such an environment. Jiang Shao said, you don't have to worry too much about the vigil. Actually, I'm a wasteland reclaimer too. Heian said, I said I'll bring you there, so I'll bring you there. You don't have to suck up to me. Jiang Shao grinned and said, why would I lie to you? I'm a wasteland reclaimer too. I'm a member of the volunteer corps. Heian said, huh? Double military status? Double status? Jiang Shao looked up at the sky and said with a rather emotional expression, isn't that too outstanding? Everyone wants to snatch me, Sai. Heian slapped Jiang Zhao's shoulder with such immense force that he almost turned Jiang Shao into a pile of star power. Good. Heian yelled, very good. Wasteland reclaimers. Jiang Shao grimaced. Didn't they just say that we're a family? Why are they so happy now that I'm a wasteland reclaimer? The older generation of soldiers. Although they knew that they were brothers in the same trench, the sense of competition between the frontline troops and the night guards was a little too strong, wasn't it? 19 years had passed, and they still had that belief. Heian muttered, what are these brats doing? They're even slower than others when it comes to snatching people. Why do they get you a volunteer corps? Jiang Shao shivered and didn't dare to say anything while the big shots were scolding him. Heian had the right to scold him in front of him. If Jiang Shao were to say something bad about the wasteland reclaimers, he would probably be kicked into a pile of star power by Heian. Immediately afterwards, Heian said, let's do it this way. My team's designation is Skybreaker. It's the first special wasteland reclaimer team formed in the entire northern wasteland reclaimers. We specialize in the 3 northern provinces and the 5 alliances in the east. Team number 42, and I'm numbered 001. I'll mention a few names for you. Go back and look for them. As long as they're not dead, you can settle this matter. When you get back, you'll join the team and take my spot. You'll be a permanent member. If my team is gone, you'll have to rebuild it for me. If there are, I'll build another team for you. Jiang Shao was speechless. What kind of wasteland reclamation team's name is Sky Splitter? What a big name. Oh my God, were they really the first batch of great ancestors who opened up new territories? As for replacing me, Jiang Shao wouldn't go even if he had the guts. He'd better be a small fry in the tail feather team. He gestured to Jiang Shao and asked, "How is it?" Jiang Shao forced a smile, and the sudden opening of his mask gave Yi Yun a great shock. Ever since Jiang Shao said that he was a wasteland reclaimer, he suddenly felt that Yi Yun had become much more relaxed and lively. Jiang Shao said weakly, "It's not easy to explain how I met you. I know that Senior loves talents, but I'm doing well in the volunteer corps now. Hey, don't worry, I just returned from a mission a while ago. I brought back the Lily of the Bell Star Bee that I gave away and the others from the Peninsula battlefield. By the way, I also got a Star Spark medal." Yun's eyes lit up. It had been years since he heard that special term, Star Spark medal. Yun kept nodding his head and beaming with joy. He said 3 words in a row. Good, good, good. For 1,200 words for a chapter of monthly votes. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 695. It was midnight, 12/17/20. It was the last day, so he decided to vote for the toxic healer. Looking at Yun's agitated expression, Jiang Shao was elated too. Who wouldn't want to be praised? However, the Starfire medal was the lowest level medal of the Wasteland Reclaimers. After all, if Jiang Shao could bring these people back, the Wasteland Reclaimers would probably give him the highest level Wildfire medal. Would the Guardians of the Night give him the highest level Full Moon medal? Honor aside, think about the skill points. Jiang Shao could just take off on the spot. He seemed to be interested and asked, "Good lad, how did you get the Starfire medal? What mission did you carry out on the peninsula?" Of course, Jiang Shao wouldn't dampen Yun's spirits. He told him about what he had done on the peninsula, such as destroying the hundreds of immortal flowers, cleaning up, pushing the boundary line, protecting the Pure Land, and so on. Hearing this, Yun's expression turned serious. He frowned and asked, "A large number of dimensional spaces have appeared on Earth. Some of them aren't even space gates, but holy ground?" Jiang Shao nodded affirmatively and said, "The peninsula is still all right. There aren't many holy grounds. When I was carrying out a mission in Central Asia, it was a real disaster. Do you know about the dimensional space of Mount Tragic Night? The northwestern part of our country, as well as the countries in Central Asia, fell into darkness. The holy ground of Mount Tragic Night hung directly in the sky. The crisis has yet to be resolved. Our country has cleaned it up well, but the countries in Central Asia are still in chaos." He touched his chin and frowned. Could this be the trend of the alien sphere fusing with Earth? How could this happen? Jiang Shao said softly, "If that day really comes, it'll be convenient for you guys to come back. By the way, do you still have human teammates on the alien sphere?" Yun sighed and said, "If that's the case, it's better not to go back. We can indeed go back, but the creatures on the alien sphere will probably run rampant on Earth." Yun shook his head and cast those thoughts aside. Everything would be groundless if he was incompetent. Yun looked at Jiang Shao and said, "There are indeed people, teams, and even organizations on the alien sphere. I'm considered a lone wolf and didn't participate in their disputes." Jiang Shao was shocked. "Organization? There are so many people up there? Enough to form an organization?" Yun nodded. "There are more people up there than you can imagine. Since the creatures there are too powerful and too ferocious, they're always fighting for territory and even extinction, so people are forced to go to relatively safe places. People were gathering there, so it was easy to find. Let me test you. Do you think that the creatures in the dimensional space in the northern region are relatively docile?" On Earth, the snowfield that belonged to the novice village was already like this. How much safer could it be up there? Below star level 1? Jiang Shao said with uncertainty. Yun smiled and said, "The Demeng province is a region from the level 1 planet to the level 5 planet. They're all together on the alien sphere. I have told you that there is no boundary between them. They live on the same continent. Do you think it is safe there?" Jiang Shao racked his brains, but he really could not think of a safe place. He prompted, "You've been living on Earth all this time. All you see are dimensional creatures with low intelligence. You should change your way of thinking. Over there, we might not be enemies with some creatures, but we rely on them to survive." Jiang Zhao's eyes lit up and said, "Speaking of intelligence, I can only think of humanoid creatures. Although that world is magical, forgive me, my knowledge can only allow me to make such a guess." Ian looked at Jiang Shao with satisfaction and said, "Continue. There are humanoid creatures in the bushes of Demeng Province, the arsenal of Zhongji Province, and the top of the ancient tower in Zhongyuan Province. There's also the ancient imperial mausoleum in Chang, but it's a little far." Ian nodded. "That's right. Generally speaking, the more humanoid creatures are, the more intelligent they are. There's indeed a small group of people living in the bushes, relying on the white crowns and blue crowns to survive. I have also met star warriors who escaped from the arsenal. The savages are almost as violent and ferocious as the white ghouls. They are extremely difficult to get along with. Humans can't be friends with the savages, even if it's their own race. They are constantly changing leaders and killing each other. They are too ferocious." Jiang Shao grasped the keyword relying. "In other words, people have to get along well with the white crowns and blue crowns and become their subordinates?" Jiang Shao was no stranger to the white crowns and blue crowns, for they were both humanoid creatures that were elegant. Although Jiang Shao had never been to the dimensional space that was not open to the public, Xia Yan's father, Xia Shanhai, had once given the white crowns and blue crown star beads to the two of them as rewards. Jiang Shao did not accept the white crown star bead, but he tried his best to convince Han Jiangxue to accept the blue crown star bead. Han Jiangxue's current dark blue scepter star technique, Summon Lightning, came from the blue crown star bead. Jiang Shao nodded and said, "So, our stronghold is in the bushes of Demeng Province." "No, they may be there, but I'm not. I'm wandering around," he said. Jiang Shao was speechless. He's a true god. This old man is actually wandering around in such an extremely dangerous world? Jiang Shao whispered, "Aren't you a medical awakened star warrior? Why are you so unrestrained?" Ian was speechless. Jiang Shao frantically said, "Well, I'm not good with words. Don't mind me." "Ha!" Ian laughed and said, "I don't mind. Just talk to me like this in the future. I like it because it's fun. If others are too respectful to me, it'll be boring." Jiang Shao grasped the keyword others again. He said, "I'm not alone. Our team is traveling in that world, and there aren't many people in the first place. Besides, there are those who have fled for their lives. Now, there's only me and a little girl left." Jiang Shao asked, "A little girl?" Ian waved his hand and said, "A girl who's about 26 or 27 years old. She's also very curious about you and is looking forward to you joining our team." Impressive. Jiang Zhao's body was on Earth, while He-Yun's body was in the alien sphere. Meanwhile, their decoy was in the upper dimension. Jiang Shao frantically asked, "What's her name? Is she pretty?" With a look of pity, He-Yun said, "She's very beautiful, but unfortunately, she's blind." Jiang Shao asked, "What's her profession?" He-Yun said, "Rules awakened, a girl with great potential." Sigh. Jiang Shao asked, "What's the matter?" He-Yun said, "After all the countries in the world found out about the dangers of the upper dimension, they should have banned people from entering it and stopped searching. We have too few people there, and it's been a long time since we've had new blood. I've always wanted to find a combat teammate so that I can free the girl." Jiang Shao asked, "Free her?" He-Yun said helplessly, "A rules-awakened girl stood in front of me when I was in danger and even rushed into the local camp. I've always felt bad about it." Jiang Shao was slightly stunned. Although the old man ran faster than anyone else, and his physique was excellent, he was, after all, an old man in his 60s or 70s. Besides, he was also a medical awakened star warrior. Is that why the woman is charging in front? She's a good kid who respects the old and loves the young. "You haven't told me her name yet," Jiang Shao said with a smile. He paused for a moment and seemed to be the one speaking. After a while, He said, "She told you to ask her yourself." "Ha ha, interesting, interesting." Ian suddenly shook his head and said, "However, you're a little weak, and she's a person who believes in strength. You might not be able to get her name. She's just curious about you now, and that's why she's talking to you. After seeing you, how can a person take a liking to an ant?" Jiang Shao suddenly felt his heart ache. "It hurts. I'll send you to Galaxy anytime, believe it or not. Damn it. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. Are you forcing me to exchange skill points for my dignity? Why don't you take a liking to me?" "Huh? I'm Xiaopi's daddy," Jiang Shao said. "Senior He, wait for a while. I'll summon another decoy again. The fluctuations in the level of my star technique are too great. I have to summon the decoy properly and refresh it a few more times. I have to summon a decoy that has my true strength." Oh, Ian was slightly stunned. He did not have a diamond decoy and did not know its characteristics. In the alien sphere, the original white ghoul witches were at most of the platinum quality. Most of them were the gold quality. When the upper dimension projected to the lower dimension, the gold quality white ghouls would be weakened to the brass quality, which was a full 2 ranks. However, the projection of the alien sphere to the upper dimension did not weaken the creatures as much as imagined. In fact, there was not much of a difference between them. In the snowfield of the alien sphere, the gold quality white ghouls and white ghoul witches were still the main force. Of course, there were platinum quality ones, but they did not occupy a large proportion. Ian hesitated for a moment before asking, "Is the strength fluctuation when you summon the decoy very great?" Jiang Shao immediately nodded and said yes. Although he was joking, Jiang Shao still got to the point. "As you said, since the alien sphere is so dangerous, I have to take it seriously. If I die there at any moment, it'll be disrespectful to both you and myself. I have to seize this opportunity." Upon hearing this, Ian was a little hesitant. Although Jiang Shao could find the canyon residence again and the beacon tower, it would be a waste of time. Moreover, most importantly, Ian did not think that Jiang Zhao's strength could be that high. Ian thought about it and said, "I'll take you to see the projection ball first and guide you to the alien sphere. Then we'll talk about it. I'll think about it." Jiang Shao nodded. "All right, give me a day. I'll go rest and recuperate. I'll also say goodbye to them." Ian seemed to be thinking about something. He waved his hand casually and said, Go. I'll wait for you here." Jiang Shao immediately turned into a crow and flew high. Ian's voice suddenly sounded behind him. "Don't say what you shouldn't say." From afar, the cry of a crow could be heard. Caw-caw. Jiang Shao flew all the way to the canyon residence. There was no need to rest and recuperate. The reason why Jiang Shao was so determined to go back was because he wanted to bring Yuan to see the stars and the moon. Yuan was indeed cute, but she definitely did not cast a goo on Jiang Shao. Jiang Shao treated Yuan so well out of pity and nothing else. To put it in a selfish way, everyone lived for themselves, and Jiang Shao was no exception. Jiang Shao was just a person who believed in promises. To him, this was a meaningful thing. He did what he promised. He felt at ease. At the top. Chapter 696. I'm rooting for the leader of No Ear. At home in Jiangbin City on Earth. Wow, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Jiang Shao was sitting on the sofa and watching the gala when he suddenly exclaimed, "That's too much of a bully." At the side, Han Jiangxue was also watching the television quietly. She did not disturb Jiang Shao and was secretly paying attention to him. Hearing this, Han Jiangxue frantically asked, "What happened?" Jiang Shao scratched his head and said, "I met a very powerful old man who said, 'Why would humans be interested in ants?'" Han Jiangxue was speechless. Jiang Shao looked at Han Jiangxue with an aggrieved expression and said, "That old man Xuan is bullying me because I'm young. He actually called me a weakling." Han Jiangxue wanted to say that it was the truth. However, when she saw the look on Jiang Zhao's face, she comforted him. "Since he's an old man, you're decades younger than him. Little Jiangxue, you're indeed a sensible person." Jiang Shao felt much better and stood up, picked up the plates and bowls on the coffee table, and strode towards the kitchen. The two of them did not have their meal in the kitchen and instead ate on the coffee table in the living room while watching TV. Han Jiangxue also stood up, but she did not help to clean up the dishes. Instead, she walked towards the kitchen and asked, "Did you find that old man recently? Did you give the things to the soldiers?" "Don't worry, I've given them all to them." Jiang Shao walked out of the kitchen and strode towards the coffee table to continue clearing the table. Han Jiangxue turned around and leaned against the door frame, watching Jiang Shao get busy. She asked what happened. While clearing the dishes, Jiang Shao told Han Jiangxue about what happened in the upper dimension. Han Jiangxue was stunned to hear it. It was simply expanding her worldview. So, there's another version of Earth? In a certain dimension, it coincides with the Earth that I'm in? Is that why there are things like space and holy ground? While chatting with Han Jiangxue, Jiang Shao washed the dishes and wiped his hands with 2 pieces of tissue paper before returning to the living room with Han Jiangxue. Han Jiangxue had been immersed in shock about the development of the new world and seemed to be deep in thought. On the other hand, Jiang Shao also activated his internal star map and fell silent. The only sound in the room was the song and dance from the TV. Star map, Big Dipper, Galaxy Stage Level 2. Skill points, 5,064. Jiang Shao thought about it and hesitated again and again. Finally, he decided to increase the realm of star power. If that didn't happen, Jiang Shao wouldn't have wasted his skill points. At this time, Jiang Shao already had the Shadow of Calamity's ruins, which allowed him to increase his speed of cultivation. So he should take things slow and steady, advancing step by step. It would be a complete waste of skill points if he used the internal star map to improve his star power. However, it was completely different now. Heian had provided him with the concept of an alien ball. If Jiang Shao remained in the galaxy stage, he probably wouldn't be able to survive long on the alien ball and might even implicate Heian. Even though Heian said that it didn't matter if the bait died, how could Heian just sit back and watch if something really happened? From the perspective of being responsible for himself, this opportunity and Heian ascending to the sea of stars now should be the right choice. I've decided to summon a bait in the galaxy stage and think about the combination of star techniques before going to the upper dimension to look for Heian. If Heian's team lacked a warrior, Jiang Shao could go with the giant blade star map as bait. Jiang Shao thought about it and threw 100 skill points into the realm of star power. Star power upgrade. Galaxy stage level 3. Not bad. Jiang Shao murmured in his heart while feeling the star power in his body. It felt great. Eat me up. Star power upgrade. Galaxy stage level 4. Star power upgrade. Galaxy stage level 5. Star power upgrade. Galaxy stage level 8. Star power upgrade. Galaxy stage level 9. Star power upgrade. Galaxy stage level 10. Jiang Shao was speechless. Galaxy stage level 10. What's going on? I'm stuck again. Are you kidding me? Jiang Shao tried to add more star power, only to realize that he couldn't. Initially, Jiang Shao enjoyed the feeling of the star power in his body skyrocketing, but now he felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. As early as when he advanced from the nebulous stage to the galaxy stage, the concept of nebulous stage level 10 appeared. At that time, Jiang Shao also called it half step to the galaxy stage. Now, there's another half step to the galaxy stage. That's not right. Advancing from the nebulous stage to the galaxy stage is a bottleneck in one's physical fitness. If one's physical fitness is not up to standard, one will not be allowed to advance to the galaxy stage. When one's physical fitness reaches a certain standard and breaks through the threshold of entering the galaxy stage, the star power realm will feed back to the Star Warrior and completely transform the body of the Star Warrior, allowing the Star Warrior to make a qualitative leap. So, why is there a bottleneck in the galaxy stage? It doesn't make sense. The more people cultivate, the stronger their physical fitness will be. However, there is no such thing as a threshold in the galaxy stage. On the contrary, the knowledge that Jiang Shao had just come into contact with, the so-called Starry Sky stage by Senior Heian, had requirements and thresholds for physical fitness. It could also allow the physical fitness of the Star Warrior to make a qualitative leap. What's going on? Jiang Shao could not figure it out. After thinking about it for a long time, he came up with two conclusions. First, physical fitness. It might still be because of his physical fitness. Although there was no qualitative leap, the threshold was still there. It was just that the threshold was very low. However, due to the fact that Jiang Zhao's physical fitness was currently in the early stages of the galaxy stage, it was not enough to advance to the galaxy stage. The other speculation, which Jiang Zhao felt was more likely, was to turn star power into martial arts. Why did he think of turning star power into martial arts? It was because the benefit of the galaxy stage was to improve one's physical fitness, while the benefit of the galaxy stage was to be enlightened. What was being instilled? It was instilling knowledge and one's understanding of the star map. In that case, according to the normal rules, does the galaxy stage require a certain understanding of the star map? Star warriors would only advance to the galaxy stage after their understanding reached a certain standard. Then, as a benefit, the galaxy stage would feed back to humans and completely solve all the doubts the Star Warriors had about their own star maps, allowing them to have the ability to turn star power into martial arts. In short, one could not be enlightened just because they knew nothing. The galaxy stage was helping them solve their doubts and deepen their understanding of the star map. How could a person who didn't even know how to add or subtract understand calculus? At the very least, you have to learn the basics before the galaxy stage can give you more profound knowledge. Is that so? Jiang Zhao thought to himself and directly switched his star map to the gaudy blade. If the 100 points could really be used to advance Jiang Zhao to the galaxy stage, this theory should be correct, right? Jiang Zhao was about to say something when he suddenly stopped. Immediately, a layer of cold sweat broke out on Jiang Zhao's body. With his current understanding of the giant blade star map, if he were to really advance to the galaxy stage, he would undoubtedly have a deeper understanding of the giant blade technique. He might even be able to turn star power into martial arts. However, Jiang Zhao's main star map was the Big Dipper star map. The galaxy stage gave Jiang Zhao an epiphany on the giant blade star map. What about the Big Dipper star map? What should I do? Jiang Zhao only had one chance to advance to the galaxy stage, and he probably only had one chance to enjoy the benefits. Would the Big Dipper star map just be a decoration in the future? Jiang Zhao will never be able to understand the mystery. Compared to the giant blade star chart, it was obvious that the Big Dipper star chart needed the galaxy stage's reverse nurturing more. F***CK. Jiang Zhao wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and almost dropped it on the spot. If his speculation was correct, then he might not be able to summon the Big Dipper constellation in his lifetime. Han Jiangxue turned around to look at him. She had long sensed the great fluctuation of star power in Jiang Zhao's body. She asked in concern, "What's wrong? Have you advanced to the star power realm?" Jiang Zhao wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He forced a smile and said, "I've leveled up. I've leveled up." Han Jiangxue asked in bewilderment, "This is a good thing. Why do you look so sad?" Jiang Zhao covered his face with one hand and leaned back, looking as if he had nothing left to live for. He wanted to reach the Star C stage. He wanted to transform the stars into martial arts. He wanted to make a name for himself in the alien planet. He wanted to make a name for himself. But Half-Step Star C had appeared. Jiang Zhao did not have the basic theory of turning stars into martial arts in the Big Dipper diagram. In fact, he knew nothing about it. He threw in another 800 skill points for no reason and leveled it up to Galaxy Stage LV-10. Jiang Zhao had the shadow of Calamity Ruins that could speed up his cultivation. Hence, he should be able to save skill points for his star pets to upgrade their star techniques and improve his own strength. However, what was the point of Jiang Zhao entering the shadow of Calamity Ruins to cultivate now? Anyway, he couldn't advance to the star power realm. If he couldn't figure out anything about the Big Dipper constellation, he would be stuck at Galaxy Stage Level 10 for the rest of his life. Tell me if there's any problem. Han Jiangxue looked at Jiang Zhao with a solemn expression and said, "You were crying, laughing, and making a ruckus tonight. I'm very worried about you." Jiang Zhao rubbed his face hard and said, "It's nothing serious. I did advance to the star power realm, and I'm very happy. I'm just a little depressed because of the comparison. I have a deep understanding of the giant Blade constellation map, but I feel a little sad at the thought of the Big Dipper constellation map. I'm thinking too far ahead, don't mind me. Han Jiangxue turned around and reached out to rub Jiang Zhao's buzz-cut hair gently. If you don't want to tell me, you don't have to. You don't have to lie to me. Jiang Zhao frantically said, I'm telling the truth. I'm so depressed because I know nothing about the Big Dipper constellation map. Han Jiangxue looked into Jiang Zhao's eyes with a burning gaze. After a while, she said softly, You're still young. You're only 18 years old. Don't be too harsh on yourself. You've already done very well. Awaken at the age of 16, half a step into the Star Sea realm at the age of 18. From this perspective, there shouldn't be such a person in the alien sphere, let alone in the upper dimension. This time, Jiang Shao could finally straighten his back and be a man. Why? I heard that you're at the peak of the galaxy realm. I'm half a step into the Star Sea realm. Have you heard of it? Never heard of it? That's right. I don't want to hear of it either, but my strength doesn't allow me to bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 697. Jiang Shao looked at Han Jiangxue, thought about it, and said, After the Lunar New Year, let's seize the opportunity to enter the Calamity Ruins to cultivate. I plan to absorb star power and train my body inside. Although the physical fitness of people in the galaxy stage is not as high as that of the galaxy stage, it's always good to train. However, Han Jiangxue had a different attitude. Training will allow you to multitask. You think that you can sharpen your knife without delaying your work, but purely absorbing star power is far better than exercising and absorbing star power at the same time. Maybe your brain is focused on absorbing star power, but your body is focused on training. It's not right for you to think like this. Jiang Shao cried, What's wrong? That was right. I'm already at the peak of Galaxy, no. I'm already half a step into Galaxy C. I no longer need to use star power to expand the capacity of star power in my body. What I need is to break through the limits of my body and let the astral power transform my body. More importantly, I need to study the Big Dipper star chart. In this world, everyone's star map was unique. If your star map was relatively common, such as the star map of a combat-type weapon, you might be able to train an expert and gain some valuable experience. For example, Jiang Shao could give some pointers to Xia Yan's big sword star map. She wanted to turn it into martial arts? Practice skills. Although Jiang Shao did not know much about swords, he knew the research direction of such star maps. Practice harder. Don't stop. Practice until the seas run dry and the rocks crumble, until all your hair falls off. Train until the greatsword recognizes you, appreciates you, and finally gives you alms. However, who could teach Jiang Zhao's extremely special Big Dipper star map? I'll have to study it myself, right? Jiang Shao thought about it and took out his mobile phone to wish the teachers a happy new year. Second last, Qin Wangchuan, the wasteland reclaimer, and Yang Chun-san, the vice principal of the Capital Star Warriors Academy. They were all people in high positions and had their own connections and social circles. Who could guarantee that all of them knew a Star Warrior with a star map? It was just like cultivating the Great Sword star diagram. Jiang Shao did not expect a certain Star Warrior to know what the specific techniques of the Big Dipper star map were. However, as long as the other party could give Jiang Shao a research direction, it would be enough. After sending the message and greeting her, Jiang Shao felt that his conjecture might have been wrong. Jiang Shao had been wandering around in the early galaxy stage and had never come into contact with the starfall stage, nor had he thought about it. However, after thinking about it carefully, Jiang Shao felt that if there was really such a special threshold for the galaxy stage, he should at least hear some information about it. It's impossible for them to know nothing about it. Could it be that the King of Galaxy is a special group that ordinary people can't reach? Is that why this information isn't widely available? Or could it be that this was not a common problem, but a personal problem? An internal star map problem? Jiang Shao frowned and thought, I'd better ask her first. Milk legs. Why isn't my star map a milk bottle? That's easy to understand. Jiang Shao suddenly thought of something. According to his theory, Jiang Zhao's other star maps would probably be relatively simple so that it would be easier to master. After all, there is only one benefit for the Starfall stage, and Jiang Zhao planned to leave it for the Big Dipper star map. He did not have the opportunity to be enlightened on the other star maps, so he had no choice but to comprehend them himself. Qin Wanchuan was the first to reply to Jiang Zhao's message. Jiang Zhao took the opportunity and made a call. Ah, haha. Minter Qin, Happy New Year, Jiang Zhao chuckled and said, May you live a long and prosperous life. At the side, Han Jiangxue looked at Jiang Zhao's smile and felt that he was up to something. Indeed, Jiang Zhao had already revealed his fox's tail before they even chatted for a while. It doesn't matter. After all, he's a nine-tailed stage cultivator. Sooner or later, he'll have to reveal his tail. Jiang Zhao asked cautiously. Mr. Qin, are there any special requirement for advancing from the Galaxy stage to the Starfall stage? Qin Wanchuan's voice came from the other end of the line. Requirements? The Starfall stage is one of the rare realms that has no threshold. It's similar to advancing from the Stardust stage to the Nebulous stage. As long as the total amount of star power in your body reaches a certain level and you train hard enough, your body will be transformed by the star power to a certain extent. Then, you will naturally advance to the Starfall stage. Jiang Zhao was stunned for a moment and asked, No requirements? Qin Wanchuan smiled and said, Didn't I mention a few requirements just now? It's just that there isn't a particularly high threshold, unlike the Nebula Ascension to the Galaxy, which requires one's physical fitness to reach a certain standard. Do you still remember that time? I made you run on the field every day until you died? Jiang Zhao grinned and said, Of course I remember. Qin Wanchuan asked in bewilderment. Why did you ask this question? Do you have any classmates or friends who are about to advance to the Starfall stage? Jiang Zhao hurriedly said, No. Qin Wanchuan said, Are you fantasizing about the future then? Stop in time. Don't think about those trivial things. Don't bite off more than you can chew. You still have a long way to go. Jiang Zhao said, I came into contact with a soldier, and he told me that the Starfall stage has the benefit of being enlightened. It can allow you to understand your star map better. Qin Wanchuan paused and said slowly, That's true. Jiang Zhao frowned and asked, Is it possible that the understanding of the star map is the threshold to the Starfall stage? This question, Qin Wanchuan hesitated for a moment as that question stumped him. He thought about it and said, Under normal circumstances, a star warrior who has cultivated for several years, or even decades, and reached the peak of the galaxy star map would, of course, have a personal understanding of his own star map. Qin Wanchuan paused and continued. If you insist that it's a threshold, it can be considered a threshold. However, I don't think anyone would be hindered by such a threshold, right? A star warrior who is about to break through to the Starfall stage would have to fight and train for 10 or 20 years with a star map. Yet, he still doesn't know anything about his star map. Isn't this a joke? Even if you look at it with your eyes, you'll be able to understand the star map. Can't you understand its shape? Can't you guess its function? Who's so silly? Jiang Zhao was speechless. Qin Wanchuan, I'm here to seek advice humbly. Why are you still scolding me? Qin Wanchuan continued, So, this is not a threshold at all. Which idiot would be stuck because he doesn't know anything about the star map? Jiang Zhao suddenly felt a pain in his liver. Come on, damn it. Tell me what the Big Dipper is for. Is it for directions? Is it for directions? Is it for Earth explosion? Or is it for fortune-telling? Is it for feng shui? Or what does it correspond to the 9 orifices and acupoints in the human body? Damn it. Jiang Zhao scratched his head. Qin Wanchuan's words had come true. It turned out that Jiang Zhao had a lot of speculations about his star map. He was not completely clueless. Oh, seems like I'm not a fool after all. On the other end of the phone, Qin Wanchuan asked, Do you have a friend who's stuck? Jiang Zhao said no. Qin Wanchuan, on the other hand, said to himself, Even if there is, it's not a bottleneck. He just hasn't mastered it yet. Persuade him not to be impatient and continue to train step by step. Everything will come naturally. Jiang Zhao smacked his lips. All right. Qin Wanchuan said, As for you, don't be distracted by these things. You have to focus on the present and don't bite off more than you can chew. Of course, it's right to study your own star map. However, at your current stage, thinking about how to expand the total amount of star power and how to transform your body with star power is the most important thing. Jiang Xiao said impatiently. Okay. Qin Wangchuan said, I don't think you're too stupid. Everything will come naturally. One day, when you advance to the starfall stage, you will definitely have the ability to turn stars into martial arts. Don't worry about these. You have to focus. Jiang Xiao said, Okay. Well, Qin Wangchuan asked, what else is there? Jiang Xiao said, Happy New Year. Qin Wangchuan said, happy. You're happy too. I wish you. Before Qin Wangchuan could finish, Jiang Xiao continued. Minter Qin, do you know any starfall stage powerhouses whose star maps are related to constellations or stars? Qin Wangchuan was speechless. Sensing Qin Wangchuan's helplessness, Jiang Xiao chuckled and said, Wangchuan, Qin Wangchuan said, Okay. I'll ask for you. Do. Jiang Xiao looked at the phone and couldn't help but grin. He hung up so decisively. Next, Jiang Xiao saw Vice Principal Yang's reply and hurriedly called Vice Principal Yang Chensan. Yang Chensan was the principal of the Capital Star Warrior Academy. Jiang Xiao repeatedly asked him about the threshold of the Starfall stage. To Jiang Xiao's surprise, Vice Principal Yang and Qin Wangchuan's answers were the same. There was no special threshold. As long as one's cultivation reached a certain level, their star power and physical fitness would keep up, and everything would come naturally. Jiang Xiao also had an answer in his heart. Could it really be a problem with my physical fitness? Damn it! Why is this thing always stuck in my throat? Is my body really that fragile? I'm a diamond-level ninja. Who can smash me with a slap? I'm really speechless. However, to be fair, his star power realm had indeed increased too quickly, and it was normal for his body to not be able to keep up. His speed was just like a cheat code. He had just advanced from the early stage of the galaxy realm to the peak of the galaxy realm. For ordinary people, that would take several years to train. Jiang Xiao managed to accomplish something that would take years for others to accomplish in 30 seconds. How strong are Hou Mingming and Zhao Wenlong? They're the best of the best in the Capital Star Warrior Academy. How old are they? They're probably 25 years old this year, right? It's been more than half a year since they graduated, and they're still at the peak of the galaxy realm. There's no point in talking too much. Once I enter the disaster ruins, I'll soak in the rich star power environment, eat more, train more, and wait for success to come naturally. However, Jiang Xiao had to pay attention to one thing. He had to ensure that his star map was the Big Dipper star map. Otherwise, he would be in deep trouble. After repeatedly confirming the accuracy of the information, Jiang Xiao thanked her profusely and hung up the phone. Since the beginning, Second Last didn't reply to his message. He reckoned that she was still carrying out her mission. Jiang Xiao felt much better after resolving the doubts in his heart. He turned to look at Han Jiangxue and said, I'm going to go to the alien sphere with Senior He Yun to broaden my horizons. Han Jiangxue said worriedly, You have to be careful then. She seemed to have already predicted the outcome of baiting Jiang Xiao. Jiang Xiao chuckled and said, It's all right. Before I die, I'll summon the bait here and refresh it. That way, I can avoid the pain of death. Han Jiangxue raised her eyebrows. This time, she suddenly liked Jiang Zhao's rascally ways. That was indeed a good way to avoid death. Han Jiangxue asked, Are you going now? Describe to me what you saw. I'm very curious too. Jiang Xiao said, Not yet. I'm in the canyon, looking at the stars with Yuan Yuan. Han Jiangxue's expression softened a little. She curled up her long legs and curled up on the sofa. She asked softly, How is it? Jiang Xiao suddenly stretched out his arms and spread them apart, looking like he was hugging the sky. I made him a big starry sky. However, Jiang Xiao did not retract his left arm and instead placed it on Han Jiangxue's shoulder. Han Jiangxue turned her head and looked at his arm on her shoulder. You! Jiang Xiao hugged Han Jiangxue and leaned against the sofa comfortably. He then closed his eyes and said, Shh, Don't make a sound. He's smiling so happily. Han Jiangxue was speechless. In the upper dimension, Beiding Jiang Xiao sat in front of the stone table with Yuan Yuan in his arms, surrounded by red and blue mist. In the illusion, Yuan Yuan opened her mouth wide and stared at the bright stars in the sky and the bright moon in bewilderment. I heard that there's a big sister living there, said Beiding Jiang Xiao, who was sitting on the grass with Yuan Yuan in his arms while pointing at the bright moon in the sky. He couldn't bear to look away from the beautiful sky and asked in bewilderment, "Big sister?" Jiang Xiao said, "Yeah, in the fairy tales, a big sister keeps an elixir of immortality. In the end, someone came to steal it and the thief didn't succeed. Hence, he wanted to harm the big sister. In a moment of desperation, the big sister ate the elixir and turned into an immortal before flying into the sky. However, the big sister couldn't bear to be too far away from her lover, just like your mother and father, who loved each other deeply. Hence, the big sister stayed on the moon. Every full moon, she would descend to the mortal world and meet her lover under the laurel tree." "Oh!" Yuan Yuan looked at the bright moon with a yearning expression. "What's her name?" Jiang Xiao said, "Chang." Yuan Yuan scratched her head, clearly unable to understand that word. At the next moment, several figures suddenly appeared on the grass in front of the two of them. A beautiful fairy dressed in a white dress with a jade belt fluttering behind her and her long hair coiled into a bun appeared. She had bright eyes, white teeth, a nose, and soft lips. She seemed to be surrounded by a wisp of cold light, and there was a hint of sorrow between her brows. She was hugging a white rabbit and stroking it gently. Jiang Xiao said, "This is Chang'e." Yuan Yuan looked at him curiously and said softly, "She's prettier than Mommy." Jiang Xiao was taken aback and hurriedly said, "When we go back, don't tell your mother." Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 698. There was a folktale at the end of the last chapter, so you posted 3,999 words. You wasn't sure if there were a few hundred words that were free. After all, V and membership fees were different. However, he was sure that it wouldn't be 4,000 words. Back to the topic at hand, the little toxic healer had entered the final circle, and he wanted to thank everyone for their help. He took a look at the data for this month, and it had been updated with 245,000 words. Praise me. How should he put it? I'll try my best. I've also updated more than 10,000 times a day in the last week, and I'm really tired. I'll update normally tomorrow. Let me rest. I really need a rest. Autumn pear cream. I really can't take it anymore. This book has also opened up the world of the form ball. The world has expanded, and it needs to be more and more careful thinking and writing. You also hope to better present the things written in the outline and the story in his mind and words and share it with everyone. I hope you're satisfied with my performance at this stage. I also want to thank every original reader for their support. Thank you for your company along the way. Chapter 699. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, Jiang Xiao was woken up by the black and white candlelight. In the Calamity Ruins, Jiang Xiao rubbed his face and opened his eyes, only to see that the black and white candlelight was bouncing on his body. After seeing that Jiang Xiao had woken up, the mischievous child hurriedly hopped away. Behind it, the two bells let out faint chimes, as if they were giggling and chasing after the black and white candlelight. Jiang Xiao turned to look at the bed, only to see that Han Jiangxue was sleeping soundly on the bamboo bear. Without Xia Yin, Jiang Xiao gave the bed to Han Jiangxue and slept on the floor. He looked at the time and saw that it was already past 7 a.m. It was only natural for the bamboo bear to be sleeping soundly, but Han Jiangxue was still sleeping soundly. She must have been cultivating star power last night and slept late. Jiang Xiao couldn't bear to disturb her and simply opened the space door. He returned home, washed up, and prepared breakfast. As soon as he entered the living room, Jiang Xiao got a great shock. The Calamity Ruins was extremely quiet, and the crackling sounds of firecrackers outside the window indeed made Jiang Xiao feel a little uncomfortable. Jiang Xiao. Han Jiangxue's voice sounded from the space door that had yet to close. Jiang Shao maintained the space door, and after a while, Han Jiangxue jumped out and landed steadily in the living room. Han Jiangxue asked, "Why didn't you call me?" Jiang Shao scratched his head and said, "I was thinking of washing up and preparing breakfast for you before calling you." "Okay, you don't have to worry about it. I'll go prepare. Call Xia Yin and ask if she wants to go to the volcano dimensional space. If she doesn't, we'll set off after breakfast." Jiang Shao said, "Okay." On New Year's Eve, the two of them went to the Calamity Ruins to cultivate after watching the gala and having a New Year's Eve dinner. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, the two of them prepared to go to the volcano to cultivate. In order to become a superior person, talent was one aspect, but of course, hard work was also required. Last night, in the upper dimension, after Jiang Shao coaxed Yuan Yuan to sleep, he said a few words to the soldiers and left, saying that he was going to carry out a mission with Senior Yin. Despite their reluctance, the three soldiers couldn't stop Jiang Shao from leaving. They simply agreed to stay in the residence in the canyon, and the couple would always be stationed there. After all, Yuan Yuan was still young and couldn't leave her family. According to Zhang Songfu's plan, he would continue to tempt Jiang Shao to explore the map and draw out the terrain after absorbing the Shadow Crow Star technique. The decoy, Jiang Shao, bid farewell to everyone and flew away without saying when he would return. At this moment, the decoy, Jiang Shao, was being led by He Yun to see the so-called projector and broaden his horizons. Jiang Shao and the others have been working hard on Earth, not to mention luring Jiang Shao to carry out the mission. They had a much better star power environment in the Scourge Ruins than the real alien sphere, so everything was no longer a problem. Jiang Shao just needed to replenish the Scourge Ruins with star power on time. However, to be honest, there were at most 3 people and a few astral pets in the Shadow Ruins. Over a long period of time, there was no need to replenish astral power. Why? This was because they had allowed the astral power to flow through their bodies again and again, impacting and modifying their bodies before exchanging the astral power out. The astral power that had been replaced was still floating in the Shadow Ruins. From his point of view, the amount of astral power that had been consumed in the Shadow Ruins during their cultivation was not much. "Oh, okay. Jiang Shao hung up the phone and walked into the kitchen, only to see Han Jiangxue busy cooking. Xia Yin isn't coming. Han Jiangxue froze for a moment, for the outcome was beyond her expectations. She asked, "She's not coming?" Jiang Shao nodded and said, "She said that her father contacted a teacher for her who specializes in Chinese two-handed swords." Han Jiangxue nodded thoughtfully and said, "Your previous action of turning star swords into martial swords has affected her." Jiang Shao scratched his head and said, "She's quite talented in cold weapons, especially two-handed weapons. I believe she should be able to learn two-handed swords very quickly. This is pretty good. In the future, she won't only be able to perform simple operations, but will be able to use more exquisite techniques." Jiang Shao was just talking about the advantages. In fact, he did not recommend that Star Warriors change their weapons midway. However, Xia Yin was still young and was only in the middle of the galaxy stage. Besides, she had the foundation of a two-handed giant sword, so it shouldn't be too difficult for her. Jiang Shao pulled the chair out and sat down before muttering, "I don't know what she was thinking before. She clearly has the star map for two-handed swords. Why did she choose to learn the giant sword?" Han Jiangxue said, "It's because the Xia family's technique is the giant sword. Besides, you know her character. She won't turn back unless she hits a brick wall. Her parents' words are useless. She just likes the giant sword. When you first enter high school, Xia Yin also told you that she chose the giant sword because it's similar to the two-handed sword. She might also change her weapon in the future. Strictly speaking, the incident of you turning star swords into martial swords prompted her to carry out her original plan in advance." Jiang Shao shrugged his shoulders and declined to comment. Han Jiangxue placed a plate of freshly cooked dumplings on the table and turned around to walk back to the kitchen counter. She then scooped out a dish from the pot and took out the cold dish from the fridge. She then placed it on the table and said, "There's still half a month before school starts. Are you confident in improving the quality of bell and imprint? Although Han Jiangxue was making breakfast, her exquisite appearance reminded Jiang Shao of the goddess under the moon that he had created for Yuan Yuan yesterday. It couldn't be helped. It would be troublesome to fabricate a beautiful woman out of thin air. Hence, Jiang Shao used Han Jiangshue's appearance. Han Jiangxue asked, huh? Jiang Shao snapped back to his senses and glanced at his internal star map. Bell and imprint were both platinum quality level 1, 900/1, 000. Jiang Shao said with uncertainty, let's work hard. We're in a bit of a rush, but there should be no problem with the tier domain. If it really doesn't work, I'll apply for leave from school. Even if it's late, it won't be too late. Han Jiangshu nodded and said, okay, hurry up and eat. I'm going to enter the late galaxy stage in the next 2 days. Jiang Shao frantically said, if you need it, I can make you drink. Han Jiangxue was dumbfounded. Although Han Jiangxue understood what Jiang Shao meant, his words sounded, why did it sound like he was going to make her drink like a creature of another dimension? Jiang Shao scratched his head awkwardly and said, I have a platinum quality bamboo bear here. The galaxy stage is only the 3rd stage of human cultivation. The star power there is much denser than ours. If you feel that it's almost done, tell me and I'll give you a push. Han Jiangxue glanced at Jiang Shao with a smile and nodded slightly. It felt great to be taken care of by someone. Jiang Shao said, it turns out that the speed of cultivation in the Calamity Ruins is indeed very fast. Maybe we should prepare for a rainy day. At this rate, you might be able to increase your star power realm again in less than half a semester and enter the peak of the galaxy stage. We should also find you a star bead for the galaxy stage. You'll have 8 more star slots. Han Jiangxue said, previously, I didn't ask for a star pet as a reward, so the school has already found me a star bead from Dajiang Province as a reward for the World Cup. That star bead is of platinum quality. The star bead of the burner is a rare auxiliary star technique among the rules awakened star techniques. The first star technique can purify and burn the negative states in a certain area. The second star technique can disrupt and burn the enemy's star power. Jiang Shao nodded repeatedly and said, I've read the introduction of that star technique. It's indeed qualified to be included in 2 of your star slots. You still have 6 star slots left. Do you have any plans? I'll be able to speak to Qin Wangchuan and second last. For the sake of his sister, he had to put down his pride and beg others. It didn't matter if he was shameless or not. Of course, Jiang Shao didn't seem to care about his pride either. Han Jiangxue said, I'll leave one for the star pet. I still need a star technique that can sustain a large area of effect. The demonic fire master's meteorite fire technique is not bad. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, the 2 of them discussed their future. Although they were talking about battles, training, and so on, the atmosphere was rather heartwarming, accompanied by the sounds of firecrackers outside the window and the hot dishes on the table. To the 2 of them, it was indeed a blessing in disguise that they could survive and grow together with each other. After breakfast, the 2 of them tidied up the house and emptied the refrigerator, which did not have much food in stock. They heated up all the edible food and gave it to the bamboo bear and the black and white candle in the Calamity Ruins. The inedible food was taken away and thrown away. If nothing went wrong, they would continue to train in the volcano until school reopened. That was exactly what the siblings did. However, unlike when they went to the armory, Jiang Shao piled up a small mountain of mineral water in the Scourge Ruins before entering the volcano. He also prepared a lot of clothes for them. He had been to the volcanic dimensional space many times. It was incomparably hot there, and under the gray sky, there was volcanic ash everywhere. It was very dirty. On the afternoon of the first day of the Lunar New Year, the 2 of them arrived in Linsheng and entered the volcano dimensional space. They could tell that there were many people who were working hard. Even though it was the first day of the Lunar New Year, there were still many cars belonging to the society in the parking lot of the training spot. In the volcano dimensional space, the 2 of them strictly followed the 996 hours of work and rest, and the days passed by one after another. On the 12th day, There was no good news from Jiang Shao. Instead, something happened to the decoy Jiang Shao. What was supposed to come would eventually come. In the forest, two black figures were running quickly. Senior Hiyun suddenly stopped and slid a few meters long on the ground. He then stood steadily on the edge of the cliff and stopped. The two of them were running very quickly, and Jiang Shao really didn't expect Hiyun to stop all of a sudden. "Hey, hey, hey!" Jiang Shao yelled while turning around, but he couldn't stop at all. He couldn't stop at all, and due to inertia, he jumped off the cliff. Hiyun stood on the cliff with his hands clasped behind his back, looking like an otherworldly expert. After a while, Jiang Shao, who had transformed into a crow, flew back and transformed into a human. He landed on the cliff and looked at Hiyun with a look of resentment. Unfortunately, the circle mask couldn't express his resentment. Hiyun looked up at the sky and said, "Fly." Jiang Shao asked, "What?" Hiyun said, "Fly straight. Don't be afraid of the cold. When you think you can't hold on, you might be able to see it." Jiang Shao couldn't help but raise his head. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, there were clouds floating in the sky, and there was nothing unusual. Hiyun said, "Hurry up and go. After you see it, we'll go find a space gate and go to the alien sphere." Jiang Shao took out the parchment from his pocket. Ever since he entered this place, Jiang Zhao's map had also been updated. It was no longer the white ghoul skin. Jiang Shao looked around and found the location of the cliff in the map. He bit his fingertip and dripped a drop of blood on it to record the location. Then, he put away the parchment and nodded slightly at Hiyun. He transformed into a crow and flapped his wings. "Projector? Are you a natural product of this mysterious world? It represents the laws of nature. What about the laws of nature? Or are you a special product created by some higher intelligence?" Jiang Shao liked the exploration process, especially when he uncovered the veil of this mysterious world layer by layer. He liked the feeling. Peak. Chapter 700. Jiang Shao transformed into a black crow and spiraled upwards before finally changing to a vertical sprint. The higher he flew, the colder it got. This was not Earth, so he had no idea what was going on. After flying for a while, Jiang Shao finally felt energized. Jiang Shao couldn't help but scream. He saw a strange ball of light in the distant sky. It was very similar to the space gate and was composed of layers of overlapping space. However, the difference was that it had some fluorescence on it. Jiang Shao flew around the huge sphere that had a diameter of more than 20 meters twice. In the end, he couldn't help but drop a star. The white star fell like a stone sinking into the sea. It did not cause much of a stir, but the sphere lit up slightly. The crow raised its head once more, and a blue star fell down. Like before, it merged into the layers of overlapping spatial spheres and didn't cause any ripples. Jiang Shao thought about it, and his body became larger. When he spread his wings, he was more than 3 meters long. Jiang Shao flew close to the ball of light and put one of his wings into it. However, when he brushed past the ball of light, there was no damage to his wing. Jiang Shao thought for a moment, and his body descended vertically, directly landing in front of Senior Hiyun. "How is it? Did you see them?" Hiyun asked. Jiang Shao nodded and said, "That ball of light is very magical. How did you determine that it's a projection device?" Hiyun shook his head and said, "That's not my guess. During the exploration of the alien sphere, I met a lonely traveler. When we exchanged information, he told me." Hiyun sighed and continued. He didn't want to reveal more information, but I think what he said is more correct. "As you said, I've been here for 19 years and have traveled to almost every piece of land here. I found the door to the alien sphere, but I can never find the way down. Maybe the only way down is through the space-time tunnel." Jiang Shao nodded and said, "I used the crow's wings to fly past the ball of light just now. I didn't feel anything. Do you think my wings will appear in the lower dimension?" Hiyun smiled and said, "Maybe." Jiang Shao thought about it and asked, "Since it's a projection device, why haven't I seen our figures appear in the lower latitudes?" Hiyuan shook his head, indicating that he did not know. He only speculated. Compared to the creatures of other dimensions in the upper dimension, our numbers are too few. Also, we don't know if we are suitable for shadow casting. Who knows how it works? Jiang Shao nodded helplessly and said, "Can you still find the lonely traveler in the alien ball?" Ian looked at Jiang Shao with a smirk and said, "Let's go. You'll know when we get there." At the same time, in the volcanic dimensional space on Earth, two little black men stood by a misty magma lake. Looking at the lava ghoul that ran away, they could not help but smile. These small lava ghouls were really too cute. Although they had fiery red skin and the faces of Western demons, they were really the epitome of bullying the weak and fearing the strong. As soon as the lava ghoul witch died, a few lava ghouls were blown into the magma by Han Jiangxue, after which the remaining lava ghouls scattered and fled in terror while squeaking. The drizzle gradually continued, and Han Jiangxue and Jiang Shao looked at each other. After a few seconds, they couldn't help but laugh. Jiang Shao was elated because his star technique was about to be upgraded. The field tear was really a magical technique for finding beasts. Besides, they were in a volcanic terrain with undulating mountains and no trees to hide them. Hence, it was especially convenient to find the lava ghoul witches. Unless the lava ghoul witches hid in a cave, they would not be able to hide from Jiang Zhao's senses at all. In just 12 days, Jiang Shao had already completed the mission. Of course, there was another reason why Jiang Shao and Han Jiangxue were so happy. It was mainly because the two of them looked too comical at this moment. They had already been training there for more than 10 days. But no matter how long it had been, they could not get used to each other's disheveled appearance. In Jiang Zhao's heart, Han Jiangxue was like a goddess under the moon who was surrounded by a cold glow. But now, although the two of them were wearing dust-proof suits and helmets, the dust-proof suits were pitch black and stained with mud, as if they had crawled out of a mud pit. They were in a volcano, and there was volcanic ash everywhere. Jiang Shao also needed the field tear to find the lava ghoul, which also caused the rain to mix with volcanic ash and turn into mud that stained his body. The surface of the ground was originally scorching hot, but under the nourishment of the drizzle, it had all turned into mud. There were even muddy puddles. It was simply the best playground for Guzzi. Jiang Shao looked at Han Jiangxue with a scheming glint in his eyes. Splat! Jiang Shao jumped up and stepped heavily on the mud pit, causing mud to splatter everywhere. Jiang Shao! Han Jiangxue said with a sullen expression. She seemed to have squeezed those two words out of the gaps between her teeth. Although she was wearing a dust-proof helmet, she still subconsciously covered her face with her hands, causing mud to splatter all over her body. Splat! Splat! Fortunately, he didn't bring Xia Yin along. Otherwise, the two of them would probably be jumping in the mud pit for an entire day. It turned out that neither Jiang Shao nor Xia Yin had any star techniques related to field tear when they entered the volcano. Hence, they didn't develop such a new way of playing the boat. This time, Jiang Shao was really happy. Jiang Peiqi displayed her prowess, and Han Jiangxue finally couldn't take it anymore. Just as Jiang Shao attempted to jump up again and step on the ground, causing mud to splatter everywhere, Han Jiangxue threw Jiang Shao out with a flame rejection. Han Jiangxue got a great shock. According to the situation, Jiang Shao would probably be pushed into the boiling lava lake. Han Jiangxue hurriedly swung her arm, and a flame whip was thrown out, which wrapped around Jiang Zhao's body and hurriedly pulled him back. Plop! Jiang Shao plunged into the mud pit. She really isn't my biological sister. Is she really going to do it? Han Jiangxue walked over and pulled Jiang Shao up before wiping his dust-proof helmet. With the help of the rain, she finally wiped away the mud and saw Jiang Zhao's face again. It was a face full of resentment. Hee. Han Jiangxue couldn't help but chuckle and glare at Jiang Shao. Who told you to be mischievous again? I'll throw you into the lava next time. Jiang Shao grinned and walked to the edge of the lava lake, where he took out the star bead from the head of the lava ghoul, which that was 5 meters long. Behind him, the sound of rainwater splashing into the lava lake could still be heard. There was even a layer of mist floating around, just like a sauna. Han Jiangshu asked, "Why are you in a daze?" Jiang Shao snapped back to his senses and looked at the lava that was emitting white mist under the rain in bewilderment. "Why isn't there an obsidian stone?" Han Jiangshu asked in bewilderment. "Black key." It's okay, it's okay." Jiang Shao took out the star bead and turned around. "I feel like I'm going to advance the quality of my star technique. Can't we celebrate?" "You cold-hearted woman, why are you throwing me into the lava?" Han Jiangshu rolled her eyes at Jiang Shao and stopped talking, seemingly too lazy to talk to him. "Wow, you woman, how dare you treat me like this just because you're Chong Yi in the mud? Today, I'm going to let you see the true power of the toxic healer." While thinking about it, Jiang Shao crushed the star bead in his hand. Zhongling upgraded. Diamond quality level 0. Imprint upgraded. Diamond quality level 0. Great! Jiang Shao clenched his fists in excitement. At this moment, there were only 2 star slots in his star map that were not of diamond quality. Apart from enmity, countercurrent light, and sound of silence, the other star slots were dazzling with diamonds. They were extremely exquisite. There was even a star-quality star slot, which contained 3 star techniques, Earthlight, Star Concealment, and Secondary. 9 star techniques, 19 star techniques, and 2 star pets. 6 platinum, 10 diamond, and 3 star techniques. If anyone else were to see this star map, they would probably be shocked out of their wits. Jiang Shao hurriedly looked at the internal star map. Diamond, Bell. Releases medical light to heal the target. Can connect to multiple targets. Diamond, Imprint. Leaves an imprint on the target and guides the medical light to jump. Jiang Shao frowned slightly and thought, the introduction doesn't seem to have changed much. However, Zhongling's imprint was different from other star techniques. No matter how many times Zhongling's imprint was upgraded, the introduction of the star technique had never changed. It doesn't matter, those are all superficial. The actual effect is the most important. Jiang Shao said, "Let's go and find a group of lava ghouls and see how strong the diamond quality Zhongling is." However, Han Jiangxue did not respond to him. She neither agreed nor praised Jiang Shao for the upgrade of his star technique. "What's going on?" Jiang Shao hurriedly turned around, only to see that Han Jiangxue's face was stiff and her body was trembling slightly. Han Jiangshue's eyes widened, and she stammered, "Jiang Shao, Shao." Jiang Shao was shocked to see that Han Jiangshue's body had already begun to gather star power in a frenzy, and a white flame star map had already appeared in front of her. The star map was like a devouring behemoth that was frantically tearing at the star power that was gathering. The scene lasted for nearly 40 seconds, and the violent star power continued to decrease while the star power that was gathering in the surroundings also gradually weakened. Jiang Shao saw a hint of solemnity in Han Jiangshue's eyes when she looked at him. Quick, countercurrent light. Compared to the star beads, she clearly trusted Jiang Zhao's abilities more. Without hesitation, Jiang Shao immediately activated the Calamity Ruins and strode forward to carry Han Jiangxue, who had already begun to show signs of weakness, on his shoulder before jumping into the Calamity Ruins. "Can't break through?" "I, Jiang Shao, am here today to see how stubborn you are at the late galaxy stage." Jiang Shao couldn't care less, and simply threw Han Jiangxue, who was still trying hard to absorb the star power, onto the ground. He then flashed to the side of the bed. Jiang Shao raised his hand and smacked the bamboo bear's furry butt, causing it to turn into a pile of star power and be stored in the star map. At the next moment, a countercurrent light was cast over and accurately connected to Han Jiangshue's body. Although he was half a step into the galaxy stage, the platinum-quality bamboo bear was obviously more powerful. Han Jiangxue took a deep breath and closed her eyes tightly. Although her body was still stiff, the white flame star map in front of her seemed to have found delicious food and was devouring the star power that was surging towards it. However, the devouring behemoth didn't need to swallow it all. Jiang Shao was simply pouring the star power into its mouth. After a while, Han Jiangxue slowly opened her eyes and waves of star power spread out from her body like a storm. Did I succeed? Jiang Xiao raised his elbow to block his face and peeked at Han Jiangxue with his black eyes. In his line of sight, Han Jiangxue, who was covered in mud, had a pair of bright eyes and a faint smile on her face. She was staring at Jiang Xiao quietly. Jiang Xiao raised his eyebrows. Han Jiangxue nodded slightly. After two small movements that were almost undetectable, Jiang Xiao also grinned. Chapter 701. Ah, Jiang Xiao exclaimed under the thick smoke of the volcano. It was not because of the spectacular volcano, but because of the large white net on the mountainside. The crisp and pleasant sound of bell lingered in the air, causing Han Jiangxue to be dumbfounded. Faced with a group of lava ghouls that were clamoring and charging towards them, Jiang Xiao threw a shot of bell at the lava imp that was leading the charge. Ring, 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 as the leaping medical light wave landed on the lava imp. It split into three at the next moment and dispersed in all directions. That was nothing much. After all, Bell could already do that when it was in the platinum quality. However, the scene that happened next shocked the two of them. The medical light wave that was split into three, but did not shrink at all, split into three again, and turned into 9 rays of medical light that dispersed in all directions. After that, the 9 rays of light finally stopped dispersing and continued to circle back and forth among the lava ghouls. No matter how Bell leveled up, the number of times it jumped 6 times had never changed. The last few flickers of the 9 rays of light had already weaved a dense net. Under the dusky sky, the white medical light scattered in all directions, and the ringing of the bell rang loudly. It was crisp and pleasant. The group of lava ghouls that were charging towards them seemed to be wearing a large net that was weaved by white rays of light. They were advancing rapidly with their own array formations and background music. The scene was extremely spectacular. Jiang Xiao threw out an imprint that landed on Han Jiangxue, who was beside him. A portion of the medical light wave had already completed jumping. After all, the distance between the lava ghouls was not far, so it was easy for them to jump. Some of the medical light wave had yet to finish jumping. They followed the guidance of the imprint and turned around. There were actually 6 rays of medical light wave that crashed into Han Jiangxue's arms from different angles. At this moment, Han Jiangxue felt that her mind was abnormally clear and calm. The environment and temperature of the volcano were extremely hot and irritating. However, the sudden clarity made Han Jiangxue feel extremely comfortable. The next moment, a platinum ice roar rolled out. To Jiang Zhao's slight bewilderment, Han Jiangxue raised her left hand, and a dark blue scepter appeared, after which a bolt of lightning fell almost immediately after the ice roar. The bolt of lightning seemed to have calculated the trajectory of the leading lava ghoul and landed directly on the lava ghoul that had jumped up. In an instant, there was a series of wails. The lava ghouls that were still alive and kicking a second ago had already turned into a pile of corpses in the next second. Occasionally, the lava ghouls that were not affected by the ice roar also screamed and turned to run. Jiang Xiao asked, "How do you feel?" Han Jiangxue thought about it and said, "Calm, collected, sharp, and organized." Jiang Xiao asked, "Huh?" Han Jiangxue said with certainty, "It's a very good auxiliary effect. It can refresh one's mind and clear one's vision. I can give it to my teammates before the battle. It makes my mind sharper and clearer. Bell can give people a calming and soothing effect, which is already terrifying enough. On top of that, it can also make one's brain work faster, react faster, and process information faster." Jiang Zhao's hand glistened, and he pressed Bell on his chest. It turned out that Bell that was pressed on his chest still couldn't jump. Tisk, tisk. Jiang Xiao clicked his tongue in wonder. Interesting, it could also be used in future exams, especially in the middle of the exam when one's brain was in a mess. Wouldn't it be a good idea to use Bell? Wouldn't it have a good effect? However, the effect was somewhat similar to the chilly star technique of the black and white candle. If Jiang Xiao were to use the black and white candle as a hat and wear it on his head, he would probably be able to do well in the exam too, right? However, Bell had a group effect and was very suitable for the battlefield. Jiang Shao said, "I was wondering why those lava ghouls ran away so decisively." Han Jiangxue nodded and said, "Let's go back." Jiang Shao nodded gently, after which Han Jiangxue held a sphere with black ripples in her hands, and a black space teleportation shield was immediately activated. The siblings were in a good mood after completing their mission plan. Jiang Zhao's goal was to go to the Shadow Cave when school reopened this time. He really wanted to try the taste of Diamond Silence, and wondered if Qin Wangchuan could contact a Shadow Cave for them to train in. In fact, the students were also looking forward to the cultural lessons in the second semester of Year 2, because there would be more classes on star studies in this semester, and there would also be more research and discussion on star studies. After the intensive training in the first and second semester of Year 2, the students passed the thresholds of ideology, politics, history, forms, and policies that they had to overcome and handed in good results. After possessing a certain level of quality, the first-class institutions of higher learning in China were finally going to put star studies on the table. Of course, it was not that they did not learn any star studies in the first few semesters. For example, the history of star techniques, the use and combination of star techniques, and so on were all compulsory courses. After the second semester of Year 2, the skills that were supposed to be taught by the practical teachers had also become relatively professional and obscure theories for the students to refer to. For example, the in-depth development and use of star techniques, and how to maximize the effects of one's own profession in a team. The interpretation and analysis of classic actual combat cases, as well as the study of several typical star maps, and so on. Of course, Jiang Shao was interested in the course about the study of star maps. However, the subject didn't seem to be of much use to him. He just wanted to have a simple understanding of it, because they were discussing the representative star maps, which were nothing more than swords for the combat awakened and magic staffs for the rules awakened. That was also the knowledge that most students needed. If Jiang Shao wanted to study his own 9 star maps, he would probably have to find an example. Due to Han Jiangxue, Jiang Shao was very interested in the study of star pets. Unfortunately, there was no such course in the second semester of Year 2, and it would only be taught in the first semester of Year 3. However, according to the time it took for Han Jiangxue to advance to Galaxy, it seemed to be the right time for the siblings to start this course in Year 3. It was undeniable that those who could enter the Capital Star Warrior Academy were all elites. Most of the students entered from the later stages of the nebulous stage to the peak of the nebulous stage. Students like Han Jiangxue and Ying Shi, who entered from the Galaxy stage, were indeed rare. A year and a half later, in the second semester of Year 2, the talented students from the top batch, as well as the top-notch students from the second batch, would almost all cross the threshold of the Galaxy stage. The school had its own considerations for choosing to increase the proportion of star study subjects at this time. The siblings returned home, cleaned up, changed their clothes, and embarked on their journey to school again. Until now, the Capital Star Warrior Academy was not like a school to Jiang Shao, but more like a springboard that could give Jiang Shao infinite opportunities and possibilities. The Capital Star Warrior Academy allowed Jiang Shao to come into contact with more top star warriors, qualified to participate in the World Cup, qualified to go to dimensional spaces that ordinary people could not enter, and join teams that ordinary people could not enter. Of course, Jiang Shao had no objections to that. Instead, he was extremely grateful. However, in the second semester of Year 2, the Capital Star Warrior Academy was probably going to return to its orthodox school. Well, that was actually a little biased. The courses taught by the Capital Star Warrior Academy in Year 1 and Year 2 were all about teaching and educating people. The knowledge they taught should also be the knowledge and qualities that the students in such an academy should know and possess. That was the foundation of the basics. Indeed, they should learn how to be a person first. Since ancient times, there had been plenty of talented but immoral people. The more capable they were, the more of a scourge they would be. The siblings rushed to the Capital Star Warrior Academy before the start of school, but Xia Yin took a leave of absence and missed the start of school. Due to the fact that the two of them had to study in the Scourge Ruins, they did not stay in the dormitory. Instead, they stayed outside the school, which was the residential house that Xia Yin rented in the middle of the mountain. It didn't matter if they had the keys or not. Be it Jiang Shao or Han Jiangxue, they both had the ability to break into private houses. Hence, they did not need to unlock the door at all. They could just teleport in. From that perspective, the star techniques of the space series indeed had to be reported to the Star Association. The siblings began their lessons. Putting that aside for the time being, in the snowfield of the upper dimension, Jiang Shao and Senior Heian finally arrived at a snowy forest where there were huge trees and white snow. From afar, Jiang Shao could sense that there was a group of white ghouls living there. Heian hid behind a giant tree and said, "Walk a few more kilometers and you'll see a cliff. You'll also see a cave." "Okay." Jiang Shao nodded repeatedly. Heian reminded, "The tunnel in the cave extends in all directions. You just have to make sure that you go all the way down. Otherwise, you might have to fly for dozens of kilometers and fly out of the other snowy forests." Jiang Shao was secretly astonished and asked, "Aren't you going with me?" Ian shook his head and said, "I've already shown you the way. Besides, you can transform into a crow and fly in directly. You don't have to push your way in like I did back then, which is time-consuming and exhausting." Hearing this, Jiang Shao nodded thoughtfully. Ian did not accompany him, and to a certain extent, it could be said that Heian was protecting him. Heian said, "Don't worry. The cave tunnel is very spacious and large enough for you to fly over the heads of the white ghouls. However, you know the biological characteristics of the white ghouls. They are constantly killing each other, so I suggest that you fly close to the top of the tunnel and stop screaming." Jiang Shao was speechless. Heian said, "I can't leave. I still have an unfinished mission here. Remember, you have to go all the way down. If you find yourself flying higher and higher, it means that you've taken the wrong route to the other side of the forest. Although the underground tunnel extends in all directions and is complicated, making it difficult to find the correct route, it's easy to judge because there are no ups and downs in the underground tunnel. It's just a slope that goes up or down." Jiang Shao said, "Okay." Heian continued, "The space gate is no different from the holy ground in the lower dimension. You'll be able to recognize it at a glance. Besides, after entering the gate, the location you appear in is also random." Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. "Didn't you promise to bring me along? What happened to protecting me? Now, I'm randomly teleported? I'm just a F** king rookie in the galaxy. If I were to be randomly assigned to below the stars, wouldn't I be courting death?" Noticing the look in Jiang Zhao's eyes, Heian couldn't help but smile and explain, "Don't worry, it's just random within the snowfield. The snowfields in the alien ball are mostly in Beijiang province. In other words, you will appear in a certain area in Beijiang province." Jiang Shao, Heian continued, "After we came out, we transformed into crows and flew in the sky to reduce the probability of encountering the creatures on the ground. We flew all the way southwest. Since it is currently winter, the arsenal in Zhongji province will not be a green forest like you imagined. It will be a snowy forest like the snowfield, but you could determine which province you are in based on the creatures living on the ground." Jiang Shao was bewildered. "Is that even possible? Determining which province I'm in by looking at the creatures?" Heian explained, "They are very territorial, and their range of activities has very distinct regional characteristics, so don't worry. There are also a small number of arsenals in Beijiang province. Seeing savages doesn't mean anything, but if you find more and more ape ghouls and savages, you've already entered Zhongji province. Once you find more and more ice demons and ice souls, it means that you might have already flown to Liaodong province." "Damn!" Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. Heian reminded, "If you see a type of creature under the starry sky, that's Dameng. You're heading due west. Dameng is a forbidden area for you because there are many flying creatures of other dimensions there. Be careful. If you see immortal flowers and Vajra creatures, that's the Jinalai Republic. You're heading due south. The mission I'm giving you is to fly southwest, cross Zhongji province, fly across Liaodong province, and reach Liaolian City. 5 kilometers southeast of Liaolian City, there's a small island called Stick Island. Go there to find us." Jiang Shao was speechless. Yun said, "Isn't your original body on Earth? Find the topographic map and fly according to the map. You won't get lost." Jiang Shao pursed his lips and said with uncertainty, "All right." Yun's expression turned serious, and he said, "Remember, don't ever set foot in Yinzhou province. Don't ever go in. Turn around immediately if you enter by mistake." Jiang Shao blinked. The old man is so serious. Yun said, "On the alien planet, the fugitive creatures of Yinzhou province are definitely not something we can provoke. I can take you to travel on the alien planet, but we have to go by sea, either from Damong or Ludong. On the alien planet, Yinzhou province is a forbidden area for us." Jiang Shao chuckled and said, "Then I'll fly higher." Yun said angrily, "You really haven't died before?" Jiang Shao scratched his head and said after a long time, "What if? I just want to use my life to learn a lesson." Yun suddenly felt the veins on his forehead bulging and his blood pressure rising a little peak. Chapter 702. Decoy Jiang Shao turned into a crow and flew high into the sky. He passed through the layers of snow forest and saw the white ghouls engaged in a fierce battle. Roar! Ah! The white ghouls that were 3 meters away were engaged in a life-and-death battle. Their eyes were bloodshot and their claws were intertwined. Blood splattered everywhere and mincemeat flew everywhere. The scene was extremely gruesome. Caw-caw! At this moment, a black crow cawed softly and passed by. "Do you want Jiang Shao to stop talking?" "That's impossible." "Well, I'll just lower my voice at most." Jiang Shao, who had the star technique perception, easily found the huge cave at the foot of the mountain. Jiang Shao initially thought that the white ghouls that were 3 meters tall and as large as tanks would block the entrance of the cave. However, he now realized that Yun was right. The tunnel was probably 20 meters high. As long as the crow flew close to the top of the cave, there wouldn't be much of a problem even if the white ghouls stacked on top of each other. Oh my dodge! Decoy Jiang Shao suddenly retracted his wings, and the small crow fell all of a sudden. A white ghoul that had leaped up high in an attempt to pounce on a butterfly waved its huge palm in the air. The white ghoul screamed loudly. Its huge body moved in a parabola, swept past Crow's body, and then fell down, smashing heavily on another white ghoul. The white ghoul that was smashed was of course displeased, and the 2-star beasts immediately got into a fight. Puff, puff, puff. At this moment, the crow passed by again in a low-key manner. Oh my peck! Decoy Jiang Shao still failed to avoid the attack of a white ghoul in the end. Faced with the huge body that was pouncing towards him, the black crow pecked at the sharp nails of the white ghoul with green glow. Ding! The huge body of the white ghoul spun and flew back, crashing into a group of white ghouls, causing another bloodbath. Puff, puff, puff. At this moment, a crow passed by again in a low-key manner. Fighting with ghouls is fun. As he went deeper into the ground, the environment also became darker. Fortunately, Decoy Jiang Shao had a perception-type star technique. Because of the lack of light, it was actually beneficial to Decoy Jiang Shao. The crow stuck to the top of the tunnel and flew freely in the underground tunnel. After searching for an entire morning, Jiang Shao finally dove into the ground and found a large stone chamber. This stone chamber was tens of meters high. According to this height, it was probably close to the surface. In this spacious stone chamber, there were ghosts everywhere. There were 9 huge tunnels on the stone walls of the stone chamber. Jiang Shao flew in from one of the tunnels. High up in the sky, there was an overlapping space gate that was emitting a strange light. Although it was not enough to light up the dark stone chamber, it was enough to attract Jiang Zhao's attention. Due to the fact that it was rather dark there, and the white ghoul's eyes were too scarlet, Jiang Shao could see pairs of red eyes falling from the sky in the darkness. The scene was very strange. The crow's caw attracted the attention of some white ghouls. Tens of meters above the sky, the sharp beak of the crow was flowing with green light, and white ghouls surged out of it one after another, rushing into the space gate. At the next moment, a gust of cold wind blew, and the black crow couldn't help but shiver. Caw, the crow's caw echoed in the snowfield. Jiang Shao was about to cry. How long has it been? How long has it been since I saw the sun in the morning? Isn't it too beautiful? The crow circled up and landed steadily on the top of a giant tree. Its small feet clung to the branches, and it jumped left and right, looking around with its lonely eyes. Its small black head was like a rattle drum, shaking left and right, but in the end, it couldn't see anything. Is this the abnormal ball? Apart from the lower temperature, it doesn't seem to be much different from the snowfield in the upper dimension. The crow raised its small head and looked at the position of the sun. Senior Hyun said that the abnormal ball was another Earth, with the alternation of day and night and the cycle of the 4 seasons. In this case, Jiangshao was currently in the northern hemisphere. Although it was morning, the position of the sun should be in the southeast. This way, the crow flapped its wings and looked at the snowfield curiously, as if it was looking for what the F***CK. The crow trembled in fear, only to see a huge pillar of holy light descending from the sky in the distant snow forest. That pillar of light was actually so sacred. It was so sacred that Jiang Shao was a little scared, even though he was more than 10 kilometers away. Is it a platinum-quality white ghoul, which, if I get healed by it, I'll be done for? In the evening on Earth, Jiang Shao was carrying a small school bag and holding a topographic map of the northern region. He walked to the Wasteland Reclaimer's office on the west side of the administrative building A, ready to start his duty. As soon as he pushed the door open, Jiang Shao saw instructor Jiang Hong's team on duty. Jiang Shao greeted him and walked to his office, pushing all the things on the table aside. The computer is a little troublesome. Jiang Shao scratched his head and lay on the ground. He then unfolded the large topographic map and laid it on the ground like a carpet. The instructors looked at Jiang Shao curiously. The title of the map was Topographic Map of the Northern Region. They knew what Jiang Shao was researching, but they didn't know why. Instructor Jiang Hong looked at the position where Jiang Shao was kneeling and asked, "Are you studying the topographic map of Beijing?" Jiang Shao knelt on the map and searched for the possible locations where he might appear. He said casually, "I'm from Beijing province." Instructor Jiang Hong looked at Jiang Shao expressionlessly, as if Jiang Shao owed him 8 million yuan. He asked, "So what?" Jiang Shao lay on the ground and carefully observed the topography of Beijing. He suddenly asked, "Why do I always have tears in my eyes?" Instructor Jiang Hong was dumbfounded. Jiang Shao murmured softly, "Because I love this land very much." Instructor Jiang Hong was speechless. "Ha ha." The other 2 instructors couldn't help but burst into laughter. They rarely saw instructor Jiang Hong being defeated. Given Jiang Hong's powerful abilities, he was probably the only one who could be a match for him. Soon, Han Jiangxue walked in with a handbag, followed by Gu Shi, and who was carrying some food. Although the food was taken from the school cafeteria, the Wasteland Reclaimers had borrowed the school's treasured land to prepare dinner. Hence, it was very nutritious. The 2 who walked in one after another were also stunned. Seeing that the king of toxic healers was deeply in love, Han Jiangxue sensed something and didn't say anything. Gu Shi and was not surprised by Jiang Zhao's actions at all. "Well, I'm already used to it." Gu Shi and simply felt that Jiang Shao was particularly interested in geography. Last semester, he had been drawing for himself. Although the drawings were extremely ugly, he was indeed drawing. Now, he had begun to study the map of the northern region. The world champion's hobby is a little amazing. After the 3 of them completed the handover with the previous team on duty, the instructors left and the room became quiet again. "Xiaopi, it's time to eat." Han Jiangxue walked over with a lunchbox. Jiang Shao suddenly raised his hand and waved without even looking up. He said, "Don't disturb me. I love my hometown." Han Jiangxue was speechless. Jiang Shao poked Han Jiangxue's boots with his finger and said, "Shoes. Shoes. Don't ruin the land of the Russian Federation." "Oh." Han Jiangxue took a step back and placed the lunchbox on the table. She then squatted down and said softly, "Don't you even have time to eat?" "Huh?" Jiang Shao froze for a moment and looked up at Han Jiangxue. "Wow, Missy. Who can stand such gentleness? Han Jiangxue said softly. Let's study it after we eat. Okay. Jiang Shao scratched his head and stood up. He grabbed the lunchbox and pulled the swivel chair over. While eating, he looked at the map. At this moment, there was only one question in Jiang Zhao's mind. Where the hell am I? This river seems to be a good choice. Jiang Shao pondered to himself and put down the lunchbox. He then picked up the pencil that was clipped to his ear and laid down on the map again. In the upper dimension, the crow circled up and flapped its wings to fly higher. The higher it flew, the clearer the direction of the river could be seen. This is... Jiang Shao held the pencil and stroked the river on the map, combining it with the terrain of the plains. What kind of river is this? Why can't I find a suitable one on the map? Kacha! The door of the duty room opened, and a girl with a large sword on her back strode in majestically and valiantly. As soon as she entered, Xia Yin saw a girl kneeling on the ground before she could greet Han Jiangxue. Xia Yin hurriedly took 2 steps forward and kicked her. Wow, that feels great. Xia Yin clenched her fists in excitement. It was definitely a new version of the boat that she had never experienced before. Jiang Shao did not have the time to pay attention to Xia Yin and was kicked to the ground. Jiang Shao turned around and looked at her. You're late. Why did you return to school so late? You just learned swordsmanship, and you've already put to use? Xia Yin didn't hear the hidden meaning in Jiang Zhao's words. She simply looked at the large map on the ground curiously and asked in bewilderment, What are you doing here? Jiang Shao pursed his lips and said, I was studying the Songhua River when you kicked me to the Siberian plateau. Xia Yin asked, Why are you studying the Songhua River? Jiang Shao rubbed his buttocks and took off his shoes. He then sat cross-legged on the map and said casually, Songhua River produces century eggs. I'm going to see where I can get them. Xia Yin was dumbfounded. Come here. Han Jiangxue gestured at Xia Yin to leave so that she wouldn't disturb Jiang Shao again. Did you miss me? Xia Yin asked with a grin as she walked over. Soon, Gu Shi joined the discussion too. Jiang Shao vaguely heard that Qin Wangchuan wanted to arrange for a double-handed swordsmanship master to teach Xia Yin. Wait a minute. Jiang Zhao's eyes suddenly widened. Wasn't this the Songhua River? Is this the Wussuli River? It's heading southwest, gulp. Jiang Zhao's Adam's apple moved as he looked up at Han Jiangxue. Although Han Jiangxue was chatting with Xia Yin, her mind was on Jiang Shao. Seeing that he was looking over, Han Jiangxue asked with concern, What's the matter? Jiang Shao did not respond and simply stood up before turning around to walk out of the door. Han Jiangxue frowned slightly and nodded at Xia Yin and Gu Shi and before following him out. When Han Jiangxue walked out of the door, she discovered that Jiang Shao was waiting for her at the entrance of the administrative building on the west side. Jiang Shao walked out with her and arrived at the private spot where he talked to Qin Wangchuan previously. Jiang Shao said softly, I've probably found my location in the upper dimension. I can now head southwest along the Wussuli River. On Earth, that's the border between China and the Russian Federation. Han Jiangxue asked, Huh? Jiang Shao said, I'll fly southwest along this river. Sooner or later, I'll pass by Fen City. On Earth, the Dragon Cave is in that area. The Dragon Cave should be there too. Han Jiangxue held her breath and frantically grabbed Jiang Zhao's arm. Don't go. Chapter 703. Jiang Shao gently patted the back of Han Jiangxue's hand and comforted her. It's okay to die, it's just bait. Han Jiangxue said decisively, but your death has to be worthwhile. How long will it take for you to travel to the foreign sphere? If he were to go there again, he would probably have to waste 1 or 2 months in the upper layer of the snowfield. That was still a small amount of time. He had to calculate the cost of time. There's such a senior waiting for you. He wants to take you on a tour of the continent and broaden your horizons. Don't let him wait too long. Jiang Shao said, This, Han Jiangxue said softly. We'll go there sooner or later. Don't be anxious. The Dragon Cave on Earth might be a place of death for you and me, not to mention a higher-level alien ball. Plus, you're just baiting an alien ball. There's a high chance you won't be able to find anything. You'll just die." Jiang Shao was speechless. Han Jiangxue said, "Do what we should do at every stage. What you have to do now is to join that team and get as much information as possible from them. Don't go and die in vain. Believe me, I'm more eager to explore the Dragon Cave than you are, but it's extremely irrational to do so now." Han Jiangxue said softly, "Be good, Jiang Shao." "Okay." Jiang Shao scratched his head. "I'll go look for the old man and the blind man first, then." Han Jiangxue nodded gently and said, "We're going to the Shadow Cave at the end of the month. I've already contacted the Qin cult. I'll give you a mission." Jiang Shao said, "How can a team member assign a mission to the captain?" Han Jiangxue said, "Cherish the life of the decoy and try to survive until the end of the month." Jiang Shao couldn't help but grimace and say, "Who are you looking down on?" The night on duty was uneventful, and so was Jiang Shao, who was in the upper dimension. In the afternoon of the next day, the decoy Jiang Shao saw the outline of the coastline clearly and immediately descended while trembling in fear. Fortunately, there were relatively few star beasts operating in the sky in the 3 northern provinces. This allowed only the galaxy's stage bait, Jiangji, to pass through the skies safely. Stick Island, although it was winter, there was no trace of snow on the island. Instead, there was a group of small dots moving around the northwestern coastline of the island. As the bait continued to descend, Jiang Shao finally saw what the dots were. "Oh my God, that's amazing. Was this a battle between the two races?" Jiang Shao actually found the figure of a savage. The arsenal was the representative dimensional space of Zhongji province. Although there were some in Beijing province and Liaodong province, there weren't many of them. He didn't expect to see the creatures in the arsenal on this small island. What made Jiang Shao even more surprised was that the savages were not fighting with their old nemesis, the ape ghouls, but a group of creatures covered in ice and snow. Ice Walker? Ice Demon? Plop, plop, plop. Jiang Shao spiraled down and fell into a forest. He landed on a branch and looked at the battlefield in the distance with his lonely eyes. After observing for a while, Jiang Shao felt that it was a pity for the ice demons. The star techniques of the ice demon were basically all related to wind and snow. More importantly, its first and second star techniques, Ice Spike and Snowstorm, require the use of natural snow in order to be cast. However, there was no snow at all in this terrain, which also caused the ice demons to lose most of their martial arts. They could only scurry around on the battlefield and wail. Woo-woo, the giant ice demon that was in a ghostly state was wrapped in ice mist and snow, with a translucent ribbon tied around its waist. They were humanoid and had 4 limbs. Due to the fact that their bodies were huge, the contours and facial features of their faces were revealed. Jiang Shao was shocked to discover that they were actually very good-looking. Under the layers of wind and snow, there was a strange sense of beauty. The few ice demons that were crying and wailing were not mentioned for the time being. After all, their faces were somewhat deformed. However, the ice demons that were not crying and had normal expressions were incredibly beautiful. They had a pair of eyes that were emitting white mist and long hair that danced without any wind. Their translucent long hair fluttered gently in the air and swayed in a beautiful rhythm. They floated quietly in the air with a hint of sorrow on their faces. They really looked like dead ghosts that were still nostalgic about life in a mortal world and reminiscing about their loved ones who had been separated from them forever. Bait Jiang Shao blinked his lonely eyes and wondered if he was being too dramatic in his mind. As for the frozen walkers, they looked much more comfortable. Weren't they just white-skinned snow zombies? Did you see that? Ice demons? Learn from them. Creatures of other dimensions should look like exotic beasts. Why are you acting like a ghost? There were ice caves on Earth too. It was not like Jiang Shao had never seen pictures and videos of ice demons. On Earth, the images of ice demons were not so specific and vivid. The ice demons on Earth were simply blurry human-shaped ghosts. It was impossible to tell whether they were male or female. It was enough to imagine how blurry they were. Every part of their body was blurry, let alone their faces. "What's going on with this alien ball?" After changing hands a few times and being projected to the lower dimensions, it was disfigured. As for the savage team, they were Jiang Zhao's old friends. Besides, they were still the same. Their faces did not change much, but their bodies were larger. Each of them was at least 5 meters tall. Jiang Xiao finally understood that all the creatures here that were of the combat attribute were known as tanks. You're telling me that the one flying in the sky is a swordsman? Jiang Xiao was speechless when he saw the huge purple eyes of the demon beasts. Their physique is so strong, and they look like they're going on a killing spree. Are they the minions in the lower dimensional arsenal? Are they the reincarnation of the ape ghoul king? Did they infiltrate the enemy and become savages? Are the 16 savages transformed from the ape ghoul king after it took off its hood? However, Jiang Xiao discovered a problem. The savages lacked many elements, which might even be the key elements. Firstly, they had no wizards or witches and no leader. Secondly, they had no female archers or long-range archers. Instead, they were all swordsmen. Is this the big swordsman team? Woo, 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 woo. All of a sudden, the 6 ice demons on the field raised their heads one after another and let out a series of sobbing sounds. The sobbing sounds gathered together, as if they were conveying a message. The black crow's head stiffened as it keenly sensed something. Just behind it, a ghost slowly emerged from the ground. The black crow was so frightened that it dared not move at all. It simply stood on the branch and pretended to be dead. Slowly, a huge, human-shaped ghost floated to the side of the black crow. If the black feathers were Jiang Zhao's hair, they would probably have stood up by now. In a position far away from the battlefield, the huge ghost raised its palm that was surrounded by wind and snow. Then, the group of white-skinned zombies in the distance were covered in armor that was surrounded by ice mist. It was not just the upper body armor, but a full set of armor that even included helmets. The frozen walkers, who were initially clean, suddenly turned into majestic generals. Their eyes were filled with ice mist, and they turned around to fight with more than a dozen swordsmen. The frozen walkers were holding a shiny ice shield in one hand and an ice spear in the other. Every time they attacked, they would leave faint frost marks on the swordsmen's weapons and bodies. The speed of the swordsmen plummeted and their movements slowed down. On the other hand, Savage Man was also exerting his strength crazily. Every time the blade slashed on the ice shield or the frozen walker's body, there would be purple lines that were madly consuming the frozen walker's star power and life force. The swordsmen all had the hatred attribute. Although they could not absorb vitality and star power from the enemy, they could disperse and deplete the enemy's vitality and star power. The ice demons on the battlefield floated in the air and began to cry again. Their cries were heart-wrenching and pitiful. Amidst the cries, the ghost beneath the black crow's feet finally attacked again. The black crow shuddered in fear and thought, "Is this ice roar?" It's definitely a platinum-quality ice roar. Jiang Xiao had seen Han Jiangxue use the platinum-quality ice roar too many times, and he was familiar with the scene and range. Without a doubt, the attack range and power were definitely above platinum quality. When the ice roar smashed down, be it the swordsmen with strong physiques or the frozen walkers who were covered in ice mist armor, they were all crushed into pieces. The black crow's eyes widened all of a sudden. 4 swordsmen and 3 frozen walkers. That's it. What kind of scene is this? What kind of powerful ice roar is this? Jiang Xiao even saw a swordsman who only had half of his body left and was frozen stiff, falling heavily to the ground. That was not all. The swordsmen were really wild. Only the upper half of their frozen body was left, but they were still trying to crawl forward while shivering. They opened their bloody mouths and bit the neck of a frozen walker that had fallen heavily to the ground. It was too damn tragic. The frozen walkers were still in a better state. However, when they were attacked, the ice mist armor that surrounded their bodies actually sputtered several ice bullets in all directions. However, the bodies of the frozen walkers were not as damaged as imagined. At least, the parts that were covered by the ice mist armor were well preserved. However, the ice mist armor had been completely destroyed. They were injured, but it did not seem to be fatal. However, one of the frozen walkers was very unlucky. The neck that was not covered by the armor and helmet was directly smashed, and its head was separated from its body. It died immediately. After the ice roar was released, the chaotic battlefield immediately came to a stop. Apart from the cheerleaders of the ice demons who were still crying bitterly, the frozen walkers quickly retreated. They did not care about their dead companions at all. Instead, they roared loudly and joined the ranks of the cheerleaders to cheer for their king. The swordsmen seemed to have good intelligence, and their rationality prevailed over their violent and bloodthirsty nature. They strode forward with their long, muscular legs, leaving behind a pile of corpses on the ground as they fled frantically. The Black Crow couldn't help but look down at the tyrannical ice spirit. How ruthless! This is too violent. The minions have been fighting for a long time and were evenly matched. As soon as the Ice Soul attacked, everything was settled. Like the ice demons, the Ice Soul's body was also composed of illusory lines that were lifelike. Although it also had long, flowing hair, it was more inclined towards a male's face. The Ice Soul's eyes emitted a thick white mist. It slowly raised its head and looked at the Black Crow on the branch above its head. The Black Crow blinked and did not dare to move in fear. The Ice Soul spat out a wisp of cold mist and looked at Jiang Shao silently before slowly extending its hand. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. The Ice Soul's illusory lines that were surrounded by ice mist gradually condensed into a slender ice hand. Under the illumination of the sun, the ice palm shone with a strange luster and beckoned at Jiang Shao gently. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. Damn it! On Earth, Jiang Shao, who was on night duty again, couldn't help but hug his head with both hands. Watching the show? Look, I'll let you watch. You're going to get yourself into trouble. In the duty room, upon hearing Jiang Zhao's voice, Han Jiangxue popped her head out from behind the computer on the opposite table and asked with concern, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" Jiang Shao looked at Han Jiangxue helplessly. The tyrant Ice Soul sent me an invitation to stroke its cat. To stroke its crow. Jiang Shao looked dismayed and said, I'm afraid I'm going to be stroked." Han Jiangxue was dumbfounded. Requesting for monthly votes. Chapter 704. I hope everyone will like the 4,200-word chapter. I'll also ask for some tickets. Caught the pitch black crow cawed twice, only to realize that the Ice Soul in front of it was still maintaining the action of raising its hand. Furthermore, the icy mist in its eyes was even thicker, spreading to both sides and almost covering half of its face. What should I do? Run? I can't run bait. Jiang Shao thought about it and jumped on the branch. He spread his wings and landed steadily on the big hand made of ice. The Ice Soul was huge. It seemed that all the star beasts in the mutated sphere were like that. After being projected and weakened, their bodies were similar to humans. In the mutated sphere, the physical qualities of each species were abnormally strong. The ice spirit spat out an icy mist from its mouth and extended its other huge palm. The palm formed by the illusory lines gradually turned into an icy palm. It extended a finger and gently tapped the Black Crow's little head. The Black Crow's two small feet grabbed the slender ice fingers of the Ice Soul and curiously lowered its head to peck. However, the ice fingers seemed to be of good quality, and it did not dig out any ice shards in the distance. A group of frozen walkers finished eating the corpse of the savage Saberman. They were very efficient and slowly came over. Jiang Shao discovered that the Frozen clan seemed to have a very strict hierarchy, or perhaps they were very respectful of the strong. The dozen or so frozen walkers walked over and knelt down on one knee. Although their violent aura had yet to dissipate, they still looked submissive. Then, the 6 ice demons also floated over. They did not cry or make a fuss and regained their cold appearance. They just looked curiously at the little crow on the Ice Soul Tyrant's finger. The Ice Soul Tyrant retracted its huge finger that was rubbing the little crow's head and suddenly raised its hand. The ice fingers shattered and turned into ice shards that lingered around its illusory body lines. The black crow felt that there was nothing under its feet. It hurriedly spread its wings and flew up. Caw, caw, the crow's cry resounded in the forest. When translated into Chinese, I was scared to death. The ice soul raised its head and looked at the crow that was fluttering its wings. Its stiff face actually relaxed a little and looked much gentler. Slowly, its huge figure sank into the ground, and there was no more sound. The ice demons surrounded the warriors and sucked the star beads handed over by the frozen walkers. After that, the illusory figures of the ice demons attached themselves to the bodies of the strong frozen walkers one after another. They no longer had the shape and outline of a human. They turned into ice mist that lingered around the bodies of the frozen walkers. The scene was so strange. The decoy Jiang Shao, on the other hand, had just escaped from the gates of hell. His heart was thumping wildly, and he was terrified. In front of such a creature, it would be difficult for Jiang Shao to escape with his abilities as bait. Fortunately, the ice spirit was only curious about the crow and was not hostile. Maybe it had a certain level of intelligence and was not interested in bullying the weak. What a mystical continent. Decoy Jiang Shao sighed in his heart and flew in the snow forest while yelling loudly. Damned old man, where are you? This island is covered with dense forests. Where are you hiding? I was almost killed by the ice spirit. No, to be exact, I've already been killed. The decoy Jiang Shao flew along the coastline of the island and finally left the dense forest. He then saw the beach with rolling waves. The beach was not a sandy beach, but a forest of boulders. Jiang Shao landed on a boulder and looked at the setting sun that was gradually disappearing into the distant sea. He then turned his head and smoothed his black feathers. Whoosh! The soft sound gave Jiang Shao a great shock. He raised his head abruptly, only to see a large black net falling down. Jiang Shao was shocked and leaped along the large net in an attempt to get out. Dong! Jiang Zhao's brain buzzed, and he hit a rock. According to the crow's size, it would not be difficult for it to get out of the mesh, but Jiang Shao did not expect that there would be invisible threads of star power intertwining on the mesh, directly locking Jiang Shao onto the boulder. Slowly, two figures walked out of the forest in the distance. The pitch-black crow struggled. With great difficulty, it flipped over and peered through the net. Huh, isn't that Senior He? The person beside him was obviously a woman. She was relatively slender and half a head taller than He Yin. She was wearing a cloak made of white ghoul skin and a hood. There was also a piece of cloth made of white ghoul skin covering her eyes. Under the cover of the hood and cloth, only her nose and lips could be seen. Little friend, you're here? He Yin had a smile on his face as he walked into the sandy beach. Jiang Shao screeched at He Yin through the black net. Mwah! Hee. She want to test you. Seems like you didn't disappoint. He Yin climbed onto the boulder and tore the black net that was stuck to the boulder. What do you mean by not disappoint? Do you mean that's all I'm capable of? The black crow jumped onto He Yun's shoulder, opened its long beak, and screeched in He Yun's ear. Mwah! Although I'm weak, I have a sharp tongue. He Yin could not help but tilt his head and rub his ear with one hand. He did not care. He was also attracted by the setting sun that was gradually sinking into the bottom of the sea. The afterglow of the setting sun dyed the sea in sky dark red. It was such a magnificent scene that made one's heart race. The black crow hopped and turned around on He Yun's shoulder. It looked at the woman with the white cloth covering her eyes. It could not help but tilt its head and look at her from head to toe. The woman lowered her head and tilted her head slightly, as if she was listening carefully to something. He Yin turned around and said, "This is my companion. You can ask her for her name." He Yin then began to introduce Jiang Shao. "This is me. Transform back first." The black crow leaped down and turned into a human before landing on the boulder. All of a sudden, the blindfolded woman frowned slightly, as if she had sensed something. "You can call him Jiang Shao." He Yin paused and reached out to pat Jiang Zhao's shoulder. "My comrade." From the perspective of the Wasteland Reclaimers, that was indeed their relationship. The woman nodded gently and remained silent throughout. Jiang Shao strode over and sized up the mysterious woman curiously. The cloak that hung down to her feet, the hood that covered her eyes, and the cloth that covered her eyes. Oh my goodness, why is she so mysterious? Hello, Jiang Shao. Jiang Shao extended his hand. The woman did not move at all. She hid her hands in the cloak and turned a deaf ear to Jiang Zhao's gesture of goodwill. Jiang Shao raised his hand and scratched his head. He then looked at He Yun awkwardly and said, "Aren't you a medical awakened star warrior? Can't you heal her eyes?" The woman suddenly turned around, seemingly having sensed something. He Yun stood on top of the boulder, his expression solemn. "What's going on?" Jiang Shao took a step back. Even though he had the star technique perception, he only discovered a trace of movement in the forest in the distance after a full 5 seconds. The woman slowly raised her hand, and a fair and tender palm reached out from the cloak. There was a black fog lingering on the back of her hand. Then black flowers that looked like ink drifted out. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded by the sight. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Bamboo arrows wrapped in dense astral powers were shot out from the dense forest, leaving long purple lines in the air. In the dense rain of arrows, the woman strolled leisurely with her clothes fluttering in the wind. In the blink of an eye, several savages with spears had already dashed out. Their huge purple eyes were extremely demonic and shimmering with a soul-stirring glow. Jiang Shao even saw an ink-black flower blooming in front of the caveman's chest, seemingly penetrating his heart. The body of the savage male spear was obviously stiff, but they seemed to be unable to feel any pain as they continued to sprint towards their prey. Jiang Shao clearly had not adapted to the alien sphere yet, nor had he adapted to the combat habits of the alien sphere creatures. He had not adapted to their physical strength. Their speed was too fast, and their actions were too decisive. Faced with the overwhelming male spear that seemed to have spread its wings, the woman stood in front of Jiang Shao and He Yun and clenched her slender fists. Screech. As she clenched her fists, an almost undetectable sound could be heard. The flower on the chest of the savage male spear had completely bloomed and even shackled his large upper body. However, the star technique was clearly not meant to imprison people. When the ink flower completely dispersed and stained the body of the male spear, his face turned ashen and his heart was torn apart by the blooming ink flower on his chest. Bang! The massive body of the savage male spear fell heavily and slid on the sandy beach for a few meters. He was completely dead, and the 2 spearmen who were charging in front suffered the same fate as him. The woman was still moving forward against the rain of arrows. When she passed by the corpses of the savages, she curled her fingers slightly. Next, 3 large heads floated out of the corpses of the 3 savages a few steps away from Jiang Shao. The 3 pale faces were twisted and extremely hideous. They were the expressions of the 3 spearmen when they died. 3 ghostly faces surrounded the woman, dragging grayish-white, ghostly flames behind them. They screamed shrilly like ghosts and rushed into the forest under the woman's guidance. Gulp! Jiang Shao couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He watched helplessly as the pale faces floated out of the corpses and the 3 spearmen stood up. The ink on their upper bodies had already dissipated and condensed at their hearts again. The black ink flower bloomed even more beautifully. The savage spearmen were clearly no longer alive, but they stood up stubbornly and walked towards the woman with a poker face. As soon as Jiang Shao was about to say something, He Yun pressed her hand against his shoulder. He Yun explained, "Don't worry, she's controlling the corpses." Jiang Shao was shocked, and his mouth was agape. The circle mask opened wide. The corpses and dead spirits didn't scare He Yun, but Jiang Zhao's cracked masked mouth did. He Yun had seen the circle mask grin before, but he had never seen it so wide. What the hell is this thing? He Yun had bait, but he did not disguise it. He really had no idea what Jiang Zhao's bait was. Jiang Shao could not help but be speechless. This girl, as he spoke, apart from the shrieks of the undead spirits, the savages also joined in the screams. Jiang Shao could hear the fear in the savage archer's voice. This girl was indeed terrifying to be able to scare the savages so badly. He nodded and pushed Jiang Shao. Don't just stand there. Go and take a look. Even if you can't help, it's good to observe your teammates battle and understand her fighting style as soon as possible. Jiang Shao hurriedly chased after him. With his sharp senses, Jiang Shao saw a huge savage sorceress lying on the ground. Her eyes were wide open and her demonic eyes were bulging, as if she had suffered a huge shock before dying. On her chest, an ink flower was still blooming. Jiang Shao could not help but squat down, pull out the dagger beside his thigh, and poke the ink flower gently. To Jiang Zhao's surprise, the ink flower was very soft. With a gentle poke, the dagger pierced through. What's going on? Jiang Shao made up his mind and dug out the flower. It would have been better if he had not dug it out, but it was an eye-opener for Jiang Shao. Not only did he dig out the flower, but he also dug out the heart that had been pierced by the roots of the flower. Why was it so easy to dig? The flower had clearly contaminated the surrounding flesh, skin, and bones, causing them to condense into dry and cracked ink. Unlike the flower that was still soft, the heart that was as black as ink was dry and cracked like a piece of broken soil. Jiang Shao could not help but shiver. He pulled out the dagger and wiped it on the savage sorceress's body. He then looked around and turned into a crow before flapping his wings and flying in. Following the screams, Jiang Shao finally found the figure of the woman, only to realize that the battle had already ended. The rest of the savages had already fled into the forest and disappeared without a trace. There were 6 or 7 corpses with flowers blooming on their chests, and their faces were covered in dark patterns, as if the ink had seeped into their blood vessels. They staggered back while pulling open their skulls to retrieve their star beads. Plop, plop. The corpses that had their skulls torn apart lay on the ground, and the ground was stained with black and red blood. However, their blood-stained palms were raised high, holding up their star beads. The scene was extremely bizarre. A few of the ghost faces with distorted faces were still screaming miserably. Their screams were hoarse, and it was heart-wrenching. They surrounded the woman and gradually dispersed, seemingly having finally been freed. The woman turned around and walked slowly towards Jiang Shao. When she brushed past Jiang Shao, she stopped in her tracks. Jiang Shao did not dare to move, feeling a little overwhelmed. The woman did not make a single sound at all. She was terrifyingly quiet, just like a dead person. Jiang Shao had the star technique of perception, but even her breathing was so light that it was almost inaudible. That was too strange. The woman turned her body and tilted her head slightly. In the direction that she gestured, there were a few corpses that were lying on the ground and holding up their star beads. Jiang Shao walked over quickly and took out the blood-stained star bead from their palms. When he turned around, he realized that the woman had already walked far away. What is this? A unique way to express my goodwill? Seeing that the two of them were walking back one after another, he asked with a smile, "How was it? Did you broaden your horizons?" Jiang Shao hesitated for a moment and said meekly, "Yes, it broadened my horizons. There are so many things." Yin was speechless. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 705. 10 minutes later, Ian stood in front of a big tree with his hands behind his back. Jiang Shao was holding a giant sword in his hand and acting like a lumberjack. While swinging the giant sword, Jiang Shao looked at Ian, who was the supervisor, and said helplessly, "What a waste of resources. Senior, this sword of mine is for killing people, not for cutting trees." Ian said leisurely, "I gave you a chance, but you're so useless, aren't you?" Jiang Shao was stunned for a moment. "Huh, are you sure your melons are ripe?" Ian was dumbfounded. Looking at Ian's dumbfounded expression, Jiang Shao smiled awkwardly and said, "I thought you were giving me a secret signal." Ian ignored Jiang Zhao's thoughts and said, "I asked you to follow her just now, but you didn't get to display your skills. I wanted to let her see what you're capable of, but now She's ignoring you, let alone asking for your name. Screech, screech. Jiang Shao continued to chop wood while saying, "You know her abilities better than I do, right? How can I have a chance to intervene?" Ian said, "Okay, okay. Hurry up and use green glow to chop twice." Screech. The giant blade swung horizontally, and a huge tree that the three of them could not surround slowly fell to the ground. Jiang Shao grinned and said, "Let me be clear, I don't know how to build ships. Besides, don't you guys have any spatial star techniques? There's no army guarding this continent, so no one will stop you from looking for spatial star techniques, right?" Ian explained patiently, "There are many forbidden areas in this world. We're different from you. You're bait, and we only have one life." Jiang Shao said, Ian snatched Jiang Zhao's giant sword and started chopping at the giant tree. In fact, if you don't acquire any spatial star techniques in the lower dimension, you won't get any in the future. Jiang Shao was stunned for a moment. "That theory is interesting," Ian explained. "In the upper dimension, in the alien sphere, we can't even avoid the spatial star beasts in time." Before Jiang Shao could speak, Ian continued, "This continent is relatively stable now because of the rules here. The star beasts in each region are very territorial. Except for a small number of aggressive creatures, most star beasts will stay in their own territory. All right, I can turn into a big crow and carry you guys to Ludo. Don't worry about me getting tired. I once carried that heavy bamboo bear and flew for a long time." Without raising his head, Ian said, "Every road has its own logic and meaning. You will see some interesting things on the sea. This is also a journey of exploration for you." Jiang Shao shrugged nonchalantly and turned to look into the distance, only to see the blind lady sitting quietly on the boulder. Although her eyes were blindfolded, she was still staring at the horizon. As Ian worked, he said, "Go on, don't grumble here. Bring out your young people's ability to make friends. It's going to be dark soon. I'll hurry up and take the boat. While it's dark, we can hurry on with our journey." Jiang Shao puffed. Ian laughed and scolded, "Leave the dagger and get lost." Jiang Shao scratched his head and turned around to walk towards the gravel beach. Jiang Shao really didn't know how to strike up a conversation with the blind lady who had been silent all this while. Of course, Jiang Shao was thick-skinned enough, but the problem was that the girl was too strange. Actually, she wasn't cold at all. She and Han Jiangxue were star warriors with completely different auras. The blind lady was extremely powerful, but she was rather reserved. Even during the battle, just now, she didn't seem to have a strong aura. If Jiang Shao hadn't seen what she did with his own eyes, he would probably have thought that she was just an obedient, deaf, and mute child. Jiang Shao swore that if it were second last, she would have already made the people around her tremble in fear when they were fighting on the battlefield just now. The blind lady was very quiet, just like her appearance. She was quiet on the inside, too. In fact, she might even be completely silent. She didn't bring any pressure to the people around her. She was in a high position, but she didn't show any disdain or belittlement. In fact, she might not even have any comments about Jiang Shao. She was just immersed in her own world and teamed up with Yun, probably because this world was too dangerous. Jiang Shao racked his brains for a way to pry her mouth open. "Why don't I try something else?" Puff, puff, puff. Jiang Shao suddenly transformed into a crow and flapped his wings to fly over. He circled above the blind lady's head twice and hesitated for a long time. In the end, he didn't dare to land on her shoulder and instead chose to land beside her. The black crow raised its head and stared at the blind lady with its lone, scarlet eyeball. It then opened its long beak and said, "What?" The blind lady didn't move at all, as if she hadn't heard anything. The crow hopped on its tiny feet and came to her side before gently pecking her palm that was resting on the stone. Finally, the blind lady moved. She slowly raised her hand and flicked her fingers. Boom! There was a trace of green glow on the finger that flicked the crow's head. Mwah! With a loud swoosh, the crow was sent flying. When it landed, it had already become the bait, Jiang Shao. The bait, Jiang Shao, covered his head with tears welling up in his eyes and his head buzzing. Who could stand being impervious to everything? Is it time to save the world with the bamboo bear? Do I have to use my ultimate move? Summon my real body and paste the bamboo bear on your face? The bait rubbed his head and strode over. You're only amenable to force, aren't you? The blind lady turned her head silently. Although her eyes were covered, she seemed to be sizing Jiang Shao up. The bait continued. If I press you to the ground and give you a good beating, will you be able to speak? The blind lady retracted her palm and gently placed it on the boulder. Jiang Shao stepped on the boulder and looked up at the blind lady. Hey, seriously speaking, I have a medical star technique. Can I help you treat your eyes? The blind lady remained silent. Jiang Shao asked in bewilderment. You've been in a team with Senior He for a long time, and you've experienced countless battles. I believe he has healed your body more than once. Using a medical star technique on a chaotic battlefield isn't like usual. Senior He won't deliberately and precisely heal a certain part of your body, allowing the medical star technique to avoid your eyes. So, the blind lady raised her head slightly, but Jiang Shao noticed her subtle movements. Jiang Shao continued, so, there's nothing wrong with your eyes. You're just deliberately covering them. As soon as he finished speaking, there was silence, and only the sound of Yin knocking on the tree could be heard. A few seconds later, the blind lady suddenly extended her hand towards Jiang Shao. Jiang Shao blinked, only to see a flower of ink slowly blooming on her fair and tender palm. Jiang Shao was speechless. Is this considered a reward for guessing correctly? The blind lady's arm froze in midair, and she seemed to have turned into a statue again. Jiang Shao said awkwardly, "Thank you, but I don't want it." Nonsense. Who would dare to take it? As soon as Jiang Shao picked it up, his hand would be melted by the ink and completely shattered. The blind lady lowered her head silently and clenched her fists, crushing the blooming flower of ink. The black ink flowed out from the gaps between her fingers. When the ink dripped onto the stone, it immediately corroded the small piece of stone, causing cracks to appear on the surface of the stone. Jiang Shao was extremely glad to see that. Fortunately, I didn't reach out to grab it. Jiang Shao said softly, "Pardon me for asking, but what star technique is this? Where did it come from?" The ink in the blind lady's hand turned into star power and dissipated in the air. She raised her head again and looked at the sky and the sea in the distance. He-Yun's voice sounded from afar. "Let's go to Ludong." He-Yun then raised the wooden boat with one hand and strode towards the sandy beach. That saved the extremely awkward Jiang Shao. He hurriedly stepped forward and took the wooden boat from He-Yun. He then walked quickly to the beach and placed it by the water. He said, "Senior He, you dug this boat out of a tree. You didn't even need a single nail." He-Yun nodded and said, "It's nothing." However, Jiang Shao smiled and said, "Your boat looks more and more like a bathtub." He-Yun was bewildered and exclaimed, "Cut the crap. Let's go." The three of them boarded the boat one after another, and He-Yun handed Jiang Shao 2 simple paddles. "Let's go." Jiang Shao stood up and was about to push the bathtub away when he saw the blind lady leaning against the edge of the wooden boat and extending her hand. Boom! There was a muffled sound, and a small air cannon was a great help to Jiang Shao. Jiang Shao held onto the paddle and was a little at a loss. Does this girl have a Wind Series star technique? Wouldn't it be better to just fly the 3 of them to Ludong? Is it because it's too far away? Okay, let's paddle. I'm just slacking off. I'm good at it. After paddling for a dozen times, Jiang Shao found some tricks, and his speed became faster and faster. The sea was really calm, and the sun had already set. The moonlight shone on the surface of the sea, forming a bright reflection in the water. It was rather poetic and picturesque. More than 10 minutes later, Jiang Shao discovered that there were small lanterns in the dark sea. They swam in groups in the sea and occasionally popped their heads out to look at the bathtub curiously. Jiang Shao finally saw what they looked like. The colorful lanterns turned out to be a group of fish with light bulbs on their heads. They looked like the lion-headed goldfish on Earth, except that their heads were larger and they emitted colorful rays of light. Jiang Zhao's eyes were dazed and he thought, "Isn't it a little beautiful?" A few seconds later, the lantern surrounding the bathtub suddenly extinguished and the surrounding sea fell into darkness again, leaving only the white moonlight. "Something is approaching," Jiang Shao said with a sullen expression. Since he could discover the abnormality, the other two big shots had long discovered it, but none of them said anything. He Yin said, "It's a large fish. I don't know what it's called, but I've never seen it on Earth before. They're very docile, and I've never seen them get hurt, even though I've been traveling by sea for so long." Phew! The waves exploded, and Jiang Shao couldn't even see what it looked like. All he could see was the large mouth and the dense rows of sharp teeth. The sudden scene was clearly beyond the blind lady's expectations. She couldn't be bothered to think about Tian Duo and subconsciously leaped up. He followed closely behind, and Jiang Shao leaped up as well. The blind lady's first reaction was indeed to escape and jump, but the effective force was mutual. When she jumped up, she also kicked the bathtub down. The two Star Warriors leaped up high, followed by Jiang Shao. In the blink of an eye, the bathtub and the three of them were already in the mouth of the large fish. In a moment of desperation, Jiang Shao immediately transformed into a crow. In his line of sight, the two Star Warriors scurried out quickly, and the fish's mouth was out of danger. However, the dense rows of teeth were still closing rapidly. Seriously? Green glow appeared on the crow's long beak, and it aimed at the fish's mouth that had yet to close. It then flapped its wings violently. Kacha! The huge figure rushed out of the sea and landed heavily in the sea. The water splashed and the waves surged. The blind lady threw out an illusory long whip and wrapped it around Yun, who had nowhere to borrow strength from. She then used an air cannon, and the two of them flew high again. Yun's expression was awkward. In the one-eyed crow's eyes, it was crushed together with the bathtub by the dense rows of sharp teeth on Earth, in the administrative building of the Star Warriors' capital. Damn it! Jiang Shao stood up abruptly, picked up the book on the table, and threw it on the table. Han Jiangxue hurriedly stood up and asked with concern, "What's the matter?" Jiang Shao subconsciously looked at Han Jiangxue with an awkward expression. He frantically waved his hands and said, "It's nothing. It's nothing." "What's the matter? What can it be? Would you believe me if I said that I was eaten by a fish? Even if you believe me, I can't say it. I'm the king of toxic healers. Is he unreliable or not? It's okay to slap your face, but I'm risking my life." Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 706. Ding, ding. The sounds of swords colliding could be heard in the gloomy ruins of Calamity. At this moment, the two figures were engaged in an intense battle using the purest giant sword technique without any star techniques. 4 pyrotechnics puppets acted as torches, forming a square. Within the square, there were flashes of sabers and swords, and sparks from the friction between the giant steel blades. Not far away, Xia Yin hugged her knees and sat on the straw mat, staring at the two figures fighting in the arena with an almost obsessive gaze. One of them was Jiang Shao. The other was Jiang Shao. To Xia Yin, it was probably the most precious practical lesson in the world. What was more terrifying was that such lessons were held every day, and Xia Yin had become the exclusive student who got special attention every day. On the first day, when Jiang Shao and Xia Yin started fighting, there was another spectator, Han Jiangxue. However, Han Jiangxue simply watched the fun and then went to cultivate her star power. Xia Yin, on the other hand, was extremely reluctant to give up any details. There was always a connection between a two-handed sword and a two-handed giant blade. The two of them had completely turned off their synesthesia and became two independent individuals who also became each other's best sparring partners. However, their giant sword techniques were of the same origin and could even be considered the same. In order to determine who was superior, there had to be an X factor. The so-called X factor might be a star technique or a star map. The rules that Jiang Shao set for himself were that he was not allowed to use star techniques. Hence, the star map seemed to have become the key factor in deciding the winner. Jiang Zhao's star map was the Big Dipper. The decoy Jiang Zhao star map was the fancy blade, or flower blade for short. As Xia Yin wished, the decoy Jiang Zhao really pulled out the crimson flower blade. Besides, he did not abandon the giant steel blade in his hand. At this moment, the weapon that was supposed to be held in two hands became a one-handed weapon. The decoy Jiang Zhao held two giant blades in his hands, and his technique was getting more and more mature. Xia Yin and Jiang Zhao had never thought that a two-handed weapon would become a one-handed weapon while holding one in each hand. Jiang Zhao, who was the bait, was also forced into a corner. In the past half a month, the two of them were almost tied. Finally, there was a time when the real Jiang Zhao seized the initiative and almost killed the decoy Jiang Zhao. At the critical moment, the decoy Jiang Zhao pulled out the star map in his body to block the attack. From then on, the decoy Jiang Zhao began to study the unexpected product. Xiao family saber art has leveled up. Platinum quality level 5. A message suddenly appeared in Jiang Zhao's internal star map, making Jiang Zhao, who was in the midst of a tough battle, overjoyed. Could it be that the bait had taken the correct route? The diamond quality Xia family giant blade was playing the dual-wielding giant blade route. Ding! Jiang Zhao suddenly placed his sword in front of him, and a crimson mist surrounded him. Jiang Zhao's flower sword slashed horizontally against the giant steel sword. Under the tremendous force, Jiang Zhao's figure slid backwards. Still in a state of struggling to block, he had yet to make his next move. On the other side, the giant steel sword in Jiang Zhao's left hand flew out and spun towards him. Jiang Zhao was shocked and thought, "How did you manage to spin the sword at such a close distance?" No. How the hell did I spin the knife? Am I that strong? The cold tip of the sword was on Jiang Zhao's shoulder. The diamond-level endurance was not to be trifled with, either. The giant steel sword tore through Jiang Zhao's thin, short-sleeved shirt and collided with Jiang Zhao's shoulder, producing a crisp sound. The real Jiang Zhao focused his attention and got ready to seize the opportunity. Once the other party threw the giant sword at him again, Jiang Zhao would seize the opportunity to snatch it away because he was well aware of the mystery behind it. Although the two Jiang Zhao senses had been cut off, they were both Jiang Zhao. How could the decoy use a bullet sword as a conventional method? Jiang Zhao was forced to retreat. The decoy's flower sword was the main weapon and the giant sword was the supplementary weapon. Even among the thousands of white ghouls, Jiang Zhao could still defend himself well. However, he couldn't defend against his other self. "Xia Yin, sword, let me use your sword," Jiang Zhao yelled while retreating. Xia Yin was stunned for a moment before frantically picking up the sword beside her. "Xia Yin, don't give it to me. I'll treat you to red beans smoothie. The one we had yesterday. Red beans, crushed peanuts, crushed ice, and some osmanthus sauce. Take a bite, and you'll die of satisfaction." Xia Yin's palms stiffened slightly. Jiang Zhao was immediately displeased and panted heavily while perspiring profusely. He yelled at the decoy, "Shameless! I should be the one treating too. What has it got to do with you that I'm paying for it?" The decoy, on the other hand, was amused. He said in an interesting manner, "I'm scolding myself?" Jiang Zhao was speechless. Xia Yin thought about it and said, "You two, stop fighting. You've already achieved the goal of training your bodies. You look like you've just been fished out of the water. Go take a shower. It's time to sleep." Jiang Zhao immediately stopped and nodded. "Okay, I won't fight anymore. It's settled then." The decoy's face stiffened and he stabbed his sword into the ground. He grimaced and said, "I just realized why I'm so shameless." Xia Yin covered her mouth and snickered. She urged, "Hurry up and take a shower. You're making me uncomfortable." Jiang Zhao touched his wet forehead. Sparring was indeed very exhausting, but it could indeed achieve the goal of training the body, especially in an environment as dense as the Scourge ruins. Training would be twice the result with half the effort. Every breath he took and every movement of his muscles was nourished by the rich astral power. Jiang Zhao casually opened the space door, and Xia Yan's voice sounded from afar. "Bring a red bean smoothie back. 2 servings." Bring one for your sister, too. Jiang Xiao closed the space door. I was wondering why you were so kind. Turns out you're up to something. Jiang Xiao returned to the house in the maple forest, which was also the private residence that Xia Yin had rented. He then flashed to the bathroom and took off his wet singlet, after which water gushed out. Jiang Xiao thought about it and turned on a shower head. While taking a shower, he also washed his clothes from the inside out. 20 minutes later, Jiang Xiao walked out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around his waist and returned to the small bedroom. He put on a long-sleeved shirt and looked at the clock on the wall. It was 10:30 a.m. Jiang Xiao thought about it and took the keys from the hanger at the door before pushing the door open and walking out. He could wear a short-sleeved shirt in the Calamity Ruins, but he couldn't wear it outside. Although it was April, the temperature in the capital was not high. Jiang Xiao walked in the dimly lit neighborhood and was greeted by a gust of wind. He couldn't help but wrap his coat around himself. Today was the day of rest for their team. After all, it was a 2-day break. Even though there were classes in the capital during the day, Jiang Xiao still had plenty of free time. Qin Wanchuan had already given him the exact information that they would be going to the Shadow Cave in Tianjin the day after tomorrow. It was indeed fortunate that the Xia family's swordsmanship had reached Platinum Quality Level 5 before the expedition. Jiang Xiao was also thinking about whether the dual-wielding giant swords that he had unintentionally developed was the diamond technique of the Xia family swordsmanship. Jiang Xiao took a deep breath. In fact, there was something else that he was confused about. Ever since the bait was chewed up by the big fish half a month ago, he didn't rush back to Beijiang province immediately and didn't go to the snowfield to deliver his bait. Jiang Xiao had a clear understanding of himself. He was too weak. Even if Senior He Yun had the intention to help and protect him, a simple and unexpected incident would be enough to kill him. Jiang Xiao's physical fitness was not up to standard. Half a second was enough to determine his life and death. Jiang Xiao had the star technique perception, but he still couldn't escape from the big fish. Although some of the reasons were due to He Yun's misjudgment, Jiang Xiao himself was the main reason. The blind lady and He Yun jumped out half a second earlier, and even higher. Hence, they survived unscathed. Jiang Xiao sighed and walked on the side of the road dejectedly. Of course, Earth was also full of danger, but it was not on the same level as the alien ball. If Jiang Xiao appeared on the alien ball, he would be a piece of cake, and it would implicate Senior He Yun. He Yun and the alien ball was not bait. Jiang Xiao was afraid that Senior He Yun would really die one day because he protected bait Jiang Xiao. Hence, Jiang Xiao trained even harder and sweated profusely. He trained like a dead dog every day and night in a bid to reach the threshold of the Starfall stage as soon as possible. Not to mention the big fish that appeared out of nowhere. The Icebound clan's tyrant Ice Soul would have died in the hands of the Ice Soul if it hadn't been unwilling to bully the weak. Jiang Xiao wouldn't have seen Senior He Yun at all. He felt like an iron-headed younger brother who was clearly a skinny and weak primary school student. Yet, he insisted on barging into the adult world to wreak havoc. Damn it, why did I have to come into contact with such a high-level existence in my sophomore year? I've shouldered a burden that shouldn't be shouldered at my age. If I were to go with my real body, I'd definitely die. However, that thought was just a way to vent his anger. How could Jiang Zhao's real body go to the alien ball? He wasn't that impulsive. Jiang Xiao kicked away the small stones on the side of the road and thought, after this Shadow Cave experience, I'll find an excuse to go to the snowfield again. Since I'm going to die anyway, I'll just hang around in the Beijiang province region of the alien ball. I don't want to implicate He Yun. When the time comes, I'll let Jiang Xiao go to Fin City and take a look at the border to see if there's a so-called dragon cave there. At the thought of it, matching star techniques would be a difficult task. After some thought, Jiang Xiao decided to let bait go with the Flower Blade star map. Since he had a set of star techniques, he wouldn't need any endurance. At Jiang Zhao's level, most of the creatures there would be killed in a single blow, and there wouldn't be any need for healing. Jiang Xiao stopped in his tracks. The Star Warriors city was a college town, and there were many commercial streets. Jiang Xiao looked up at the signboard and strode into a milk tea shop. Although it was very late, there were still a couple of couples inside, sitting at a small table and chatting intimately, laughing and joking. Their state of mind was indeed incompatible with Jiang Zhao's. As a person who was constantly on the verge of death, Jiang Zhao's mentality was indeed not what a college student should have. Jiang Zhao's appearance made the students in the milk tea shop slightly stunned. But as students of the Star Warriors University, they did not yell and instead whispered to each other while taking out their mobile phones to take photos. A couple even took advantage of the time when Jiang Zhao was queuing to sneak up to him and ask for his autograph softly. 15 minutes later, Jiang Zhao walked out of the milk tea shop with a paper bag containing 3 cups of red bean smoothies in it. He turned around to look at the warm atmosphere and people in the milk tea shop. Life is so damn beautiful. Buzz. His pocket vibrated, and Jiang Zhao took out his mobile phone, only to be slightly stunned. It was a message from Hai Tianqing. I'm getting married. So, have all the good things come together? Jiang Zhao typed and sent it. So soon. Hai Tianqing replied. Not soon. I proposed for more than half a year. If I delay any longer, your teacher will forget about my proposal. I'll have to propose again. Jiang Zhao was speechless. Hai Tianqing said, You won the World Cup last time, and I managed to propose successfully because of you. If I propose again, what will it be like? Shall I wait until you win the World Cup next year? With a peculiar expression, Jiang Zhao typed, Sure, I'll definitely be the champion of the team competition next year. World Cup team competition? Of course, why not? It's a rare opportunity to earn skill points. Of course, I have to go. Besides, if Jiang Zhao didn't go, he would be letting Vice Principal Yang Chensin down. The old principal was so nice to him and had given him the green light to contact Star Pets and search for star beads. Jiang Zhao wouldn't be able to excuse himself if he didn't participate. Besides, Gu Shi and An Xiaoyan were also waiting. Having such a title would be beneficial to the future of everyone in the team. On a grander scale, it would be Jiang Zhao's honor to be able to win glory for China and even become the champion. Hai Tianqing said, Go away, let's get down to business. Your teacher isn't going to hold a big banquet. We're going to get married privately. Come and be a witness. Jiang Zhao was a little bewildered. Teacher Fong comes from a big family. Will her parents agree? This time, Hai Tianqing didn't say anything. Jiang Zhao was even more bewildered. While walking home, he held onto his mobile phone and waited. Along the way, Hai Tianqing finally sent a message to him when he walked into the Maple Forest estate. Her family doesn't agree with us being together. Her parents have also ordered her not to be in contact with me again. Jiang Zhao asked, What's going on? Hai Tianqing was such a gentle, elegant, good-looking, and capable person. Why wouldn't he agree? Hai Tianqing sent a text message. In the end, they still found out that I was expelled from the team. Because of me, Nebula hasn't been in contact with her family for a long time. Jiang Zhao pursed his lips and looked at the message. All of a sudden, he was at a loss for words. Jiang Zhao was extremely flustered. He placed the red bean smoothie on the ground and leaned against the door of the unit before slowly sliding to the ground. Because of that person, do you regret it? Hai Tianqing replied. Let's not talk about that. I just want to seize the present. This is a mutual choice between Nebula and me. I think I could take good care of her. One day, her parents and brothers will accept me. Jiang Zhao replied, If you want, I can help you plead. Be it my direct superior or my immediate superior in the Northwest, I can speak to all of them. Making amends for past mistakes is a good phrase. Hai Tianqing asked, What do you mean? Jiang Zhao asked, Do you want to return to the team, fourth last? There was silence on the other end of the line again. Jiang Zhao thought about it for a while and typed, This might make them accept you better. Hai Tianqing finally replied, If the team needs me one day, I won't hesitate to do so. However, there's no need to plead for me to return. Okay. Jiang Zhao picked up the red bean smoothie, stood up, and pressed the voice button. Tell me the time and place. I'll be a witness to your wedding. Hai Tianqing replied with 2 words. Thank you. Jiang Zhao pursed his lips and put his phone in his pocket. You shouldn't have said that. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 707. 2 days later, the team of 4 arrived at Jinmen City under the lead of instructor Jiang Hong. Qin Wanchuan was now the chief instructor of the capital Star Warriors University, and he was also establishing the Wasteland Reclaimers apprenticeship system. Due to the urgent matters that he had to attend to, he didn't have much time to protect them. Hence, instructor Jiang Hong was the one who led the team, a rules-awakened instructor who could quickly escape from the battlefield. In fact, in Qin Wanchuan's opinion, Jiang Hong was not the only one who would protect the team. Jiang Xiao was one of them too. Although instructor Jiang Hong was extremely stern, the atmosphere of the team wouldn't be too bad with Jiang Xiao around. Ever since they boarded the train, Xia Yin couldn't suppress her eagerness to try. Although she had 2 star techniques, Shadow Blade and Fury of the Shadow Blade, she had never been to the Shadow Cave. She had never even been to Jinmen City. After the team exited the station and heard the conversations of the people around them, Xia Yin suddenly exclaimed, "Lu Yang is everywhere on the streets?" Lu Yang, a Tianjin thug, was their schoolmate and also their opponent in the national high school competition. As Jiang Xiao joined the Wasteland Reclaimer selection plan and became a soldier of the 2 armies, the Beijiang bandits and the Tianjin thugs began to have less contact. Xia Yin and Lu Yang were both melee fighters. One was in the combat class, while the other was in the assassination class. They even took some lessons together. Hence, Xia Yin and Lu Yang met more often. Hearing the Tianjin accent on the streets, Jiang Xiao smiled and said, "Of course, Lu Yang was born and raised in Tianjin. Of course, his accent is similar to theirs." Xia Yin glared at Jiang Xiao angrily and retorted, "You're the one who's talking nonsense." However, Jiang Xiao looked at the sullen Gu Shi and couldn't help but pat him on the shoulder. "Don't worry too much. You'll have to face it eventually. You're a wasteland reclaimer. The dimensional spaces and creatures of other dimensions that you deal with in the future are not for you to choose. There are only benefits to coming into contact with the fallen shadow creatures earlier. After all, I'm protecting you now. It's rare to see a healer like me." "Okay," Gu Shi answered casually and took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket. His expression was as sullen as his mood. The reason was simple. The Shadow Cave was not open to the public. This sentence alone was enough to show how dangerous the Shadow Cave was. In a dimensional space of the same level of danger, the Shadow Cave was clearly more special. As a member of the Guardians of the Night, light-chasing team, Jiang Xiao should have access to most of the dimensional spaces that were open to the public. Under normal circumstances, the Guardians of the Night stationed in the local dimensional space would give Jiang Xiao some face. However, Tianjin Shadow Cave was obviously not one of them. Due to the fact that the creatures of other dimensions were all at least at the gold level and had the platinum level fallen shadow demons to hold the fort, the effects of their star techniques were too special, and they were all related to the damage to the soul. Hence, they could easily cause an indelible impact on the Star Warriors. The military would only organize personnel regularly to use the star beads as material reserves and give them to the members of the team in various ways so that the soldiers could possess such powerful and peculiar star techniques. Jiang Xiao didn't know if his Guardian Officer ID would allow him to pass. Hence, he didn't use it to test the waters. Instead, he looked for Qin Wanchuan and helped him contact the training ground. In fact, Qin Wanchuan was also opposed to Jiang Zhao's desire to enter and train. The reason? It was naturally because of what he said just now. The biological star techniques, there were all star techniques that dealt a blow to the soul of the human body. Star warriors would easily get injured there. The battlefield was not an arena where no one would show mercy. Besides, in this world, killing could also be done in the arena. Once the students suffered soul damage, their bodies stiffened, or they were entangled by the shadow spirits and unable to move, it would be enough to determine their life and death in just a few seconds. Besides, there was also a godlike star technique, Sound of Silence. There were star techniques that could soothe and heal the soul in this world, but they were extremely rare, just like the star techniques that dealt damage to the soul. However, it didn't matter. Jiang Xiao was one of the rare star techniques. He had Bell. Interestingly, star warriors with combat star maps were easier to absorb for star techniques that dealt damage to the soul. They absorbed combat star techniques, such as the Shadow Spear and the Fury of a Shadow Blade. It could be understood that these combat star techniques had additional effects that dealt damage to the soul. As for the Rules Awakened, there were too few star maps that were compatible with such star techniques. The Fallen Shadow was similar to the star technique of the Savage Sorcerer in the arsenal, Zombie Spirit. Back then, Han Jiangxue absorbed so many Savage Sorcerer star beads, but she did not absorb any star techniques at all. Was Han Jiangxue not talented? Of course not. It was all because Han Jiangxue's star map was not compatible. It could be seen that there was a natural chasm between the star maps of the Rules Awakened as well. The four young talents were gathered together, and they had outstanding physical conditions. Even though Jiang Shao and Han Jiangxue were wearing hats and masks, they still could not avoid being stared at by the crowd. It was easy for people to associate the four of them with the team of Star Warriors. Gu Shi's tall figure and broad shoulders made him look like a huge shield that gave others a sense of security. The short-haired girl beside him seemed to be a melee fighter, judging from her heroic aura. As for the Medical Awakened and the Rules Awakened, it was hard to tell them apart, because they were wearing hats and masks. This way, let's go. Instructor Jiang Hong, who was not far away, waved at them. There were two plainclothes soldiers in front of him. Everyone hurriedly walked over and quickly boarded the van to escape from the sight of the enthusiastic citizens. In the van, Jiang Shao, who was seated in the back seat, suddenly said to Instructor Jiang Hong, "By the way, Instructor Jiang, we've already communicated with Instructor Qin. After this experience mission, we're going to walk around Tianjin and try some pancakes and fruits. Instructor Qin has agreed to it too." Instructor Jiang Hong turned around to look at Jiang Shao and said, "Since Instructor Qin has agreed to it, I'll return to the team after we come out. You guys seize the time." The soldier who was driving suddenly said, "Don't go to the scenic spots to eat. Don't trust those shops. Go to the old city and find a small cart. Get them to bring their own eggs." That's called authentic. Hearing that the soldier was trying his best to speak in standard Mandarin, Jiang Shao scratched his head and said after a while, "Okay, that's too inexperienced." The soldier was speechless. Another soldier who was seated in the front passenger seat laughed and said, "He's quite good at it." 2 hours later, at the northernmost part of Tianjin, near the border with Yinzhou province, the vehicle slowly drove into a military camp. The so-called military camp was not the kind of tents, but a complex of buildings. Here, Jiang Shao saw the heavily guarded soldiers. In fact, when he entered, he even saw a team of soldiers dressed in camouflage short-sleeved shirts running in a line. The sounds of 1, 2, 3 were especially loud and clear. The four of them had an eye-opener this time. They had been to many dimensional spaces and had also been to many garrisons. However, the Shadow Cave Space Gate was actually on the 3rd floor. Underground base? It's really a different world. It was not open to the public, and there were no public bathrooms, wardrobes, or the like. They did not change their clothes either. Under the lead of two soldiers, they handed over their wasteland reclaimers and arrived at a huge basement without any obstructions. Instructor Jiang Hong took the invisible earphones from the soldier and handed them to everyone. He then took the lead and walked in. While wearing the invisible earphones, Han Jiangxue waved her hand, and Sky Smasher caused the space around her to overlap. She then took out the giant sword and the giant sword and handed them to Xia Yin and Jiang Shao. "Let's go." Jiang Shao patted Gu Shi and shoulder, and the four of them entered. As soon as they entered the shadow cave, they felt a slight chill. The temperature was not high, and what they saw was a wilderness. The weeds stubbornly emerged from the ground and gathered together. There were gravel everywhere, and it felt like the dimensional space of the Night Disaster Mountain. What was different from Ashenite Mountain was that although the sky here was overcast, it was not dark. It was just cloudy. The end of the desert could not be seen, and it was dead silent. There was only the sound of the breeze blowing through the weeds. Turning around, Jiang Shao saw a group of buildings made up of several wooden houses. There was also a campfire burning outside the wooden houses. Several soldiers looked over from afar and strode over. While the soldiers were negotiating with instructor Jiang Hong, Han Jiangxue looked at the team and said, "Let's review. What do we need to pay attention to?" Although she was asking the whole team, Han Jiangxue was looking straight at Xia Yan. Xia Yan pursed her lips and said, "When you discover the fallen shadow demon, the commander will decide immediately whether to fight or flee. Follow the commander's orders strictly and don't slack off. If you choose to kill the fallen shadow demon, don't be disturbed no matter how many fallen shadow creatures there are around it. You must kill the fallen shadow witch first. Try to avoid any corpses appearing in the vision of the fallen shadow witch." Han Jiangxue nodded and said, "Very good." However, Xia Yan didn't take it to heart and said, "As long as there are no corpses around, the fallen shadow demon will just be a mascot besides. Doesn't Xiaopi have sound of silence? You just have to control the fallen shadow demon until it dies." Han Jiangxue immediately glared at Xia Yan. Xia Yan shut her mouth at the right time and hurriedly changed the topic. "By the way, the star beads we hunt this time can all be brought out, huh? I brought them out from the Cave of Desperation previously." Jiang Shao looked at instructor Jiang Hong, who was negotiating with the soldiers, and frowned slightly. "Yes, but you can't sell them. You can keep them for your own use." Xia Yan asked in bewilderment, "Why can the star beads of the Cave of Desperation and Shadow Cave be taken out? Do we have to hand in the star beads we obtained in the Forest of Tears? Is it because the effects of the star techniques of the Reign of Tears series are too special?" Han Jiangxue thought about it and said, "Maybe we were apprentices back then, but now we're official wasteland reclaimers." Xia Yan blinked and said, "Indeed, the official wasteland reclaimers are indeed different. They're full of benefits." Han Jiangxue said, "That's what the soldiers deserve." Jiang Shao said, "Something seems to have happened. What's the matter?" Everyone turned to look, only to see instructor Jiang Hong waving his hand and gesturing for them to go over. The four of them walked forward quickly and arrived in front of instructor Jiang Hong and the soldiers. With a solemn expression, instructor Jiang Hong said, "Two teams that were collecting star beads have lost contact with each other a day ago. The Guardians have already sent 6 teams to search for them, but they haven't found anything yet. The Guardians hope that we can explore the West and report to them immediately if there's any news." When instructor Jiang Hong said that, he was also staring at Xia Yan. Xia Yan immediately understood what he meant. They were going to rely on her Tier Realm star technique. She subconsciously turned to look at the team commander, Han Jiangxue. Although Jiang Shao was the leader, Han Jiangxue's position as the core leader had already been established when everyone set off from the capital, just like when they went to Jindalai previously. Han Jiangxue, on the other hand, looked at Jiang Shao. Although she was looking at him with a probing gaze, Han Jiangxue knew that Jiang Zhao's decision was obvious. "No problem," Jiang Shao said immediately. However, he was pessimistic about the search mission this time. The reason why the Shadow Cave was called the Shadow Cave was because the fallen shadow creatures were all in the cave. They would also come to the surface, but they were the minority, after all. Since the two teams could lose contact at the same time, Jiang Shao had reason to speculate that the soldiers had encountered an accident. Jiang Shao reckoned that there would probably be an encounter with such a situation. Jiang Shao didn't think that such a battle would happen on the surface. That way, the effects of the Tier Realm Star technique would also be minimized. The mission was a little difficult. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 708. In the Shadow Cave, it was drizzling heavily. The current situation was that wherever they went, the rain would follow. Xia Yan's beautiful eyes were reddened and filled with a layer of mist. In fact, Jiang Shao had always wanted to tell her, "You look prettier when you cry than when you smile." Everyone hurried forward while instructor Jiang Hong lagged far behind the team. He did not participate in the training and merely watched over and protected the four of them to a certain extent. Although Xia Yan did not fly into the sky, she was floating about 5 to 6 centimeters above the ground. She gradually slowed down and said, "There's a fallen shadow thorn that's alone." They had been walking towards the west for a long time. Due to the fact that most of the creatures were in the underground cave and other teams had come to search for their teammates, they did not see any creatures of other dimensions along the way. The information that Xia Yin gave made everyone perk up. "There's finally a guest. It's time to rip them off," Han Jiangxue said. "The fallen shadow thorn has always acted alone. There's no such thing as being alone." Gu Shiren was the most nervous, and he frantically asked, "Where is it? Why don't I see it? Don't you feel it?" Xia Yin said, "1,000 meters away. It's hiding in the pile of rocks over there. It's, washing its face." Gu Shiren was speechless. Jiang Shao chuckled and said, "Have you never seen rain before?" Xia Yin denied. "No, it's not curious. It's happy. Surprised." "Surprised?" Gu Shiren froze for a moment and said, "You can even sense their psychological activities? Why is your field tier so powerful?" Xia Yin suddenly opened her eyes and looked at Gu Shiren and with a caring gaze. "I can sense its expression." "Oh, Gu Shiren chuckled. That's good, that's good." Xia Yin could tell that there was something else in Gu Shiren's words. "What are you thinking about? Are you afraid that I'll sense it?" At the side, Jiang Shao suddenly said, "Your rain has soaked the cigarette in his pocket. Do you think he'll have anything nice to say?" Gu Shiren looked at Jiang Shao resentfully and thought, "Brother, must you be so heartless? Must you expose me? Besides, how do you know what I'm thinking? You're amazing." However, Jiang Shao ignored Gu Shiren. His thoughts had already drifted away. If the creatures in the lower dimensions were really projections, would they still have memories of the alien spheres? As it turned out, their strength had been greatly weakened, including their intelligence. According to what Jiang Shao knew, there was no rain in the Shadow Cave. However, Xia Yin meant that the fallen shadow thorn didn't find the drizzle novel, but rather surprised. There was obviously a change of seasons, day and night, and a variety of natural phenomena in the alien sphere. Then, after the fallen shadows were projected into the upper dimension and then transferred to the lower dimension, would there still be memories of the original version in their minds? While they were deep in thought, they arrived at a pile of rocks. Although there were huge rocks everywhere in the wilderness, there weren't many piles of rocks like this. Xia Yin said, "This guy is really smart. He hasn't revealed his figure at all and has been adjusting his angle according to our movements to ensure that his figure is hidden behind the stone." Han Jiangxue turned to look at Jiang Shao and said, "Activate silence. Let Gu Shiren and Xia Yin go and practice." Jiang Shao grumbled in his heart, "I want to go and practice too." Han Jiangxue said softly, "You guard me." Indeed, the way she spoke could determine many problems. After hearing Han Jiangxue's words, Jiang Shao no longer had any complaints. Jiang Shao asked, "Which way?" Xia Yin pointed to the northwest corner of the pile of rocks and said, "Over there in the northwest." Jiang Shao asked, "Are you ready?" Bang! Before Gu Shiren could react, Xia Yin dashed out with the sword of desperation on her back and the sword of silence in her hand. Bang! There was another loud sound, and the sword of desperation not only split the boulder, but it also shattered. Under normal circumstances, the weapon transformed from a weapon of desperation will be able to bring the user through at least 3 times. However, ever since Xia Yin entered the sound of silence, the sword of desperation could no longer be connected to Xia Yin. Hence it shattered. Xia Yin had clearly realized that a long time ago. The sword of desperation was meant to be used for traveling. She immediately pulled out the 2-handed sword behind her back and faced the fallen shadow thorn that was blown away along with the gravel. She then leaped up and leaped up. Screech! As she leaped rapidly, the wind blew up Xia Yin's wet short hair and revealed her menacing gaze. She then pierced the fallen shadow thorn's chest with the sword in her hand. A person and a shadow rushed out of the sound of silence and landed heavily on the ground. The sword pierced through the fallen shadow thorn's chest, and the tip of the sword pierced into the ground. What is speed? What is cool? The battle only lasted for 4 seconds. To be exact, ended in the second. Jiang Shao walked towards Gu Shi and gently patted him on the shoulder. Don't just stand there. Go and play with your Star Warrior buddy. Gu Shi was speechless. Gu Shi felt that Xia Yin did it on purpose and that she must be taking revenge on him for what he did just now. That's why she didn't want to play with him. In the distance, Xia Yin stepped on the fallen Shadowthorn's chest and pulled out the sword that was stained with black blood. She was also secretly sizing up the peculiar creature. Similar to what Rainwater sensed, the fallen Shadowthorn was also in the form of a human and walked upright. However, its knees were facing backward, just like a dog's hind legs. There was a long and sharp spike on each of its elbows. Its sharp and long black nails were filled with mud, which made Xia Yin feel a little disgusted. It had pitch-black skin, pitch-black blood, and long pointy ears. Its nose bridge was especially high, but it was an aquiline nose. In terms of human aesthetics, there was no doubt that it had an ugly face. Previously, there were still white flames floating in its eye sockets, but with its death, the white flames in its eyes dissipated, leaving only empty eye sockets. In fact, one could even see the ground below through the eye sockets. It was a magical creature. Although its body was split into two sides, its eyes could see the front and the back at the same time. Xia Yin pulled out her dagger, covered it with rich star power, and pierced its skull. She then took out a star bead that was stained with black blood. Xia Yin's eyes were bloodshot, and the drizzle that had just stopped began to fall again. With the help of the rain, Xia Yin washed the stained dagger and star bead before turning to look at everyone. There's a catacomb here. Shall we go down and explore? Gu Shi suddenly said, Okay, I think that's a good suggestion. Commander, what do you think? Han Jiangxue raised her eyebrows slightly and looked at Gu Shi, and who was trying his best to make a suggestion. After thinking about it, she finally nodded and agreed with their suggestion. Jiang Shao looked at Gu Shi with a smirk. He could almost see through Gu Shi's thoughts at a glance. On the surface, Xia Yin was an omniscient god. After entering the catacomb, Xia Yin's field tears would no longer be of use due to the restrictions of the terrain. Hence, Gu Shi became the only guiding light in the team. That was the only way to show his value. Let's go then, Jiang Shao said. Everyone arrived at the south side of the pile of rocks and saw a small hill. The entrance of the cave was dark and gloomy. In Gu Shi's eyes, each of his eyeballs turned into a pair of pupils, giving him night vision. He summoned a pitch-black shield with one hand and drew a purple thorn knife from behind his waist with the other. He strode in with large strides. Han Jiangxue looked at Xia Yin and tilted her head at the entrance of the cave, after which she summoned a large fireworks puppet. Xia Yin and the fireworks puppet followed behind, with Han Jiangxue in the middle and Jiang Shao bringing up the rear. The tunnel of the catacomb was huge and comparable to the Cave of Death. Or perhaps the environment that originated from the alien sphere was just as huge. After all, the creatures on the alien sphere were all tank-like in size. The gloomy underground tunnel was quiet, and in Jiang Zhao's world, only the crackling sounds of the fireworks puppet in front of him could be heard. From time to time, the hissing sounds of evil spirits could be heard coming from the depths of the tunnel, making one's hair stand on end. Han Jiangxue suddenly said, Try to move towards the source of the sound. Report to me immediately if you discover anything. No problem, Gu Shi said casually. However, there were 3 huge tunnel entrances in front of him. How could he determine where the sound was coming from? It turned out that Gu Shi didn't need to listen to the sound at all. His demonic eyes lit up slightly, and he checked the 3 entrances before finally stepping into the middle tunnel. There was the most star power left there. The Chongming pupils was not only good for night vision, but it also had powerful tracking and detection functions. It was a natural star technique for hunters. Everyone sped up, and under Gu Shi's lead, the underground tunnel was like their own backyard. 7 minutes later, Gu Shi said, Get ready for a large amount of star power traces. As they continued to approach, the roars and fighting sound became clearer and clearer. Han Jiangxue frantically ordered, Check if there are any fallen shadow demons first. If there aren't any, Give us the location of the fallen shadow, which first. Gu Shiren stopped in his tracks and walked along the tunnel. At the corner, he peeked his head out and looked into the distance. There are 23 fallen shadow warriors. Gu Shiren frowned slightly and continued. 2 fallen shadow witches. They stay together and are very silent. I haven't found any fallen shadow demons yet. While observing carefully, Gu Shiren pressed his hand down and said, "Cancel the fireworks puppet. The flames will attract their attention easily." Jiang Xiao asked curiously, "Why are there so many creatures gathered here? What are they doing? Having a meeting?" They seem to be having an intense discussion. Gu Shiren whispered, "The rest are just spectators. There are only 2 fallen shadow warriors fighting. They're obviously much larger than the other fallen shadow warriors. Could they be choosing a leader?" Jiang Xiao was slightly stunned. Just like in the animal world, the pride of lions would always change their leader. Han Jiangxue explained softly, "It should be the fallen shadow warriors challenging the leader. No matter which side succeeds, the loser will be devoured completely." Jiang Xiao couldn't help but smack his lips. That's way too cruel. If the male lion failed the challenge, it would at least have a chance to escape or be banished from a species. Although it might not live long, it's better than being devoured by its former underling as soon as it fails. Han Jiangxue pulled Gu Shiren back and walked to the corner to look into the distance. In the darkness, she could only see a white willow, the wisp drifting in the darkness. Clearly, the white flames were the eyes of the fallen shadow creatures. Han Jiangxue roughly estimated the distance between them and retreated. She then ordered, "Continue to monitor them. We'll wait for the moment when the winner is decided. Give me a signal when the loser is surrounded and snatched for food." Gu Shiren nodded and hurriedly observed carefully. "What's the battle plan?" Jiang Xiao whispered. "They're all fighting for food. What's the battle plan?" After they gather together, little Jiangxue will release a few ice roars, and the whole world will fall silent. Han Jiangxue's cold voice sounded from the darkness. "No, the shadow shield can still block the ice roars. Jiang Zhao's silence will make the first move. Without the ability to resist, they'll die more thoroughly." Hearing this, Gu Shiren couldn't help but shiver. At the back of the team, Era didn't feel anything at all. She had already begun counting the star beads with her slender fingers. 23 fallen shadow warrior star beads and 2 fallen shadow witch star beads. Wow, what a huge race. I'm going to be rich. Jiang Xiao was secretly delighted too. The star beads and star techniques of the fallen shadow creatures were indeed very suitable for his decoy star map. As for whether I'll be rich or not, I'll think about it after I'm full of bait. I'll let Xia Yin take the rest to make a fortune. As for how much I'll be left with in the end, forget it. I'll stop talking about it. Peak. Chapter 709. Get ready, Gu Shiren said softly. Along with the information he provided, more and more roars were heard. Roar, hiss, roar. Originally, it was just 2 mighty and majestic fallen shadow warriors fighting. However, at the last moment, the shadow warriors in the huge stone room couldn't suppress the impulse in their hearts and began to cheer for the new king that was about to be born. Gu Shiren's eyes were fixed on the battle in the middle. A large fallen shadow warrior with black blood flowing all over its body was riding on another shadow warrior with a broken body. They looked very similar to the fallen shadow thorn, including the eye sockets that were pierced through their skulls. However, in terms of body size, they were much more majestic than the fallen shadow thorn. If the fallen shadow thorn was compared to Han Jiangxue, then the fallen shadow warriors would be the tall and strong Gu Shiren. Although the two were only about 10 centimeters apart in height, the difference in body size was too obvious. Boom, boom, boom. A series of heavy sounds resounded in the tunnel, making Jiang Zhao's teeth ache. Jiang Zhao tugged at the corner of Gu Shiren's shirt and asked meekly, "What happened?" "Oh, it hurts." He was practically a blind man. Gu Shiren said softly, "I don't know." Jiang Zhao was dumbfounded. Gu Shiren said, "They've already surrounded us. Should we attack?" In the vast open space in the distance, white willow, The wisps gathered and roars could be heard incessantly. The new Shadow Warrior was riding on the old Shadow Warrior with two shadow hammers in each of its claws. It was swinging them down crazily. Old King Ingwu's arms were placed in front of his eyes, and a shadow shield was placed on his arms as he resisted bitterly. However, under the repeated heavy blows, the old Shadow Warrior found it harder and harder to resist. Its body, which was already covered in wounds, would spurt out thick black blood with each heavy blow. Kacha! The shadow shield suddenly shattered. The new king, Ingwu, did not hesitate at all. The heavy hammers in his left and right claws were still swinging and smashing nonstop. Bang, 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 until the flames in the old King Ingwu's eye sockets quietly extinguished, until its head was completely smashed. The new King Ingwu roared towards the sky, opened its bloody mouth, and roared. Roar! Roar, roar, roar. Woo-woo. The new King Shadow Warrior directly lifted the corpse of the old King Shadow Warrior and wantonly shook it in the air, shouting at the surrounding fallen Shadow Warriors. Arrogant and domineering, flaunting his prowess. The reaction of the other fallen Shadow Warriors made the new king very satisfied. They also shouted loudly and surrounded the old king. Their sharp claws tore at the old king's body and tore off pieces of flesh. A barbaric and brutal meal unfolded just like that. The weak did not deserve to live in this world. The loser would lose everything, and not even his own corpse could be preserved. The world of the fallen shadows was far crueler than people could imagine. In a corner far away, the relatively thin fallen shadow, which was holding a stone staff in both hands, but she was watching the show secretly. Their status was extraordinary. In every group of fallen Shadow Warriors, they were treated as strategists. There was no danger and there was not much competition. They just smiled and watched everything that happened. As for the old master, it had long been thrown to the back of their minds. Just like the corpse, there was nothing left. Bang! A shot of silence came. The bodies of the fallen Shadow Warriors that were gathered together and crazily tearing and snatching flesh and blood froze at the same time. They let out a few coughs, and the star power in their bodies suddenly went berserk. The fallen shadow, which was obviously stunned for a moment. The next moment, another shot of silence hit their heads. Along with this silence was a heavy roar of ice. However, it did not land on their heads. Instead, it landed on the group of fallen Shadow Warriors who were enjoying the feast. Bang, bang, bang. A gust of wind swept through and shattered ice flew everywhere. Under the effects of silence, the fallen Shadow Warriors could not put up any effective resistance at all. They could only stagger and escape. However, under the violent smashing of silence, there was a stampede. How lethal was the platinum ice roar? In the dense vortex of shattered ice, there were broken bodies and Shadow Warriors that were screaming in pain but could not make a sound. The vortex of shattered ice that was stained with black blood was mixed with the broken bodies, giving the feast a thorough baptism. Is this considered fighting violence with violence? The three members of the team quickly ran over and left Xia Yan to guard the entrance. While running, Jiang Shao flashed out from behind Gu Shi, and everyone stepped on the halo of nostalgia. At the same time, Jiang Shao cast a countercurrent light. Although it was dark, the two lonely figures in the distance with white willow, the wisps floating on their faces, couldn't be more conspicuous. Besides, nostalgia was helping him find prey. The broken bodies did not become the targets of nostalgia's protection. It was not Jiang Zhao's intention, but rather, nostalgia would only look for living bodies. Immediately afterwards, Jiang Shao raised his hand and cast Sound of Silence again. Then, another countercurrent light appeared and connected to the other fallen shadow witch. The bamboo bear in Jiang Zhao's body had really helped a lot. In the domain of silence, the star power of the two fallen shadow witches that were about to go berserk exploded this time. Their bodies froze on the spot, but there were no loud roars of advancement. There were only soundless cries and bloody mouths that were opened wide. What is this? Gu Shiren looked at the two fallen shadow witches who were trembling violently and couldn't help but ask. Jiang Shao casually said, "What is it?" "I'm sucking their star power." Gu Shiren said, "They're staying in place and their bodies are trembling." "What happened?" While speaking, Gu Shiren hurriedly took 2 steps forward while Han Jiangshue's ice roar was cast again and smashed at the two white flames. Gu Shiren propped up his shield with one hand and asked, "Is there a fallen shadow demon?" Under such circumstances, Gu Shiren's reasonable guess was that it could only be the fallen shadow demon. Just as Jiang Shao was preparing his words and considering if he should explain the situation, a ghostly figure darted out from the broken pieces of the corpses. Gu Shiren's face froze and he yelled, "Fallen shadow demon." Han Jiangshue's face was cold, and she immediately threw out a fireworks puppet before dashing into the large open space. She did not have any perception-type star techniques and had no idea where the fallen shadow demon was. As for Firework Puppet, ever since its chest was pierced by a white spirit body, it was frozen on the spot in a daze. They had committed a huge crime in a shadow cave. The last thing they should provoke was the fallen shadow demon. The last thing they should provoke was the fallen shadow demon among the corpses. When the souls of the fallen shadow warriors floated out from the broken limbs, everyone knew that they had gotten into trouble. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than 10 fallen shadow warriors' soul bodies, which were covered in ghostly flames, were rushing towards them. "Oh no!" Han Jiangxue exclaimed in shock and hurriedly clasped her hands together to pick up the ripple ball. She was about to teleport away. Next, Han Jiangxue suddenly realized that Xia Yin was still guarding the inner section in the distance. At this moment of astonishment, a white spirit wailed miserably and penetrated Gu Shiren's black shield, as well as Gu Shiren's body, before rushing into Han Jiangshue's body. Han Jiangxue was dumbfounded. At this moment, Han Jiangshue's forehead broke out in a cold sweat. Her eyes suddenly widened and her body stiffened. Her face was ashen. Gu Shiren, who was standing in front of her and holding a shield, suffered the same fate as her. Ring, 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 the crisp and melodious sound of bell suddenly sounded, and the ray of medical light leaped over from behind her. As the souls of the fallen shadow warrior floated over, Jiang Shao felt a bone-chilling cold. His body subconsciously flickered, and he narrowly dodged the collision of several souls. At the instant after he flickered, he hurriedly threw out Bell. At the same time, a halo suddenly appeared in the distance. Is that the fallen shadow demon? Judging from a state of nostalgia, it didn't float out of the tunnel, but emerged from the ground instead. Jiang Shao raised his hand and cast Platinum Silence. Silence breaks all laws. Bang! With a muffled sound, the fallen shadow demon, which was half a soul, let out a strange, soft sound. It was also at this moment that the wailing souls of the fallen shadow warriors broke free from the control of the fallen shadow demon and regained their freedom. They shrieked and looked extremely pained. They scratched their heads and dissipated into the air one by one. Ring, 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 the bell continued ringing, bouncing and shuttling back and forth between the three of them. Jiang Shao chased after the fallen shadow demon that floated around and threw several shots of silence at it. The effect of Silence Domain lasted for 10 seconds, but Jiang Shao used it so frequently not only for the effect of the domain, but also to deal damage to the fallen shadow demon. The soothing effect of Diamond Bell was not to be trifled with. After turning back several times, Han Jiangxue, whose body had stiffened, took a deep breath. Her face, which was originally ashen, had now turned fair again. However, it could only be described as ghastly pale. Hurry! I stopped it with silence. It can't become a complete soul and can't enter the ground. Jiang Shao yelled frantically. Jiang Shao initially thought that he would have to wait for Han Jiangshue's ice roar, but to his surprise, a figure appeared first and a sword ray flashed. It was like the descent of a god. Screech, the half-soul, half-corporeal fallen shadow demon, was pierced in the chest by a sword of desperation and nailed into the stone wall. In the sound of silence domain, the sword of desperation immediately shattered. Xiaoyan stomped her left foot hard on the ground and rushed upwards. She lifted her right leg and kicked the fallen shadow demon's head brutally. Carrying the body of the fallen shadow demon, she directly smashed into the stone wall that had already cracked open. The human and beast crashed into the deep pit in the stone wall and broke out of the range of sound of silence. Their voices finally returned. The fallen shadow demon's head was almost smashed, and it scratched its claws in all directions. Surprisingly, it had yet to lose consciousness and was still shrieking miserably. As for Xiaoyan, green glow appeared on Xiaoyan's arm. Although the brass green glow was of a low level, it was extremely effective. Die, Xiaoyan said through gritted teeth with a menacing gaze. She used the green glow on her left hand to easily push away the fallen shadow demon's claws. All of a sudden, a bursting fireball appeared in her right hand. The burning, bursting fireball was pressed into the fallen shadow demon's mouth by Xiaoyan. It was an ordinary silver star technique that Xiaoyan had accidentally absorbed. However, it was extremely lethal in her hands. The effects of the star techniques used by the Combat Awakened were far inferior to those used by the Rules Awakened. However, at this moment, Xiaoyan's choice was almost fatal. At such a close distance, as the bursting fireball was pressed into the fallen shadow demon's mouth, the turbulent air waves immediately exploded. Boom! Xiaoyan's body flew backward, but she was caught by Jiang Xiao, who flashed towards her and carried her on his body. Boom! 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 Muffled sounds filled the air as Gu Shi and swung the dark shadow hammer with both hands and smashed it against the wall maniacally. Han Jiangshua's attacks were on point too. She also threw the bursting fireball at the wall. Xiaoyan struggled to get down from Jiang Zhao's shoulder and listened to the deafening explosions. Looking at Han Jiangxue and Gu Shiren, she couldn't help but exclaim, "The two of them." Jiang Xiao said meekly, "Don't disturb them. Let them whip us for a while." Xiaoyan grabbed the hair in front of her forehead that was slightly burnt and couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Jiang Xiao slapped Xiaoyan's shoulder and exclaimed, "You're so strong, Goddess Yan." For so many years, he had always treated her as a husky. Yet, he suddenly realized that she was actually a wolf that resembled a husky. Xiaoyan pouted her lips proudly and said, "Look, Apex, that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."